Good evening, everybody. I'd like to convene the Lake Forest City Council meeting on April 4th, 2017. And our invocation tonight will be by Sheriff Chaplain Genton. Thank you for coming, and thanks for we admire and appreciate the Orange County Sheriff Department and the City of Lake Forest. So thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you. So do I. Please bow your heads. Dear wise and loving Father, first let me say thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for every gift we have been given. We ask for your hand of blessing and guidance over all the decisions on the agenda set before the mayor, council members, and staff this evening. May you guide and direct this meeting so that it is full of wisdom, productivity, and respect for one another. Please give them assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work within the city of Lake Forest. We ask that you protect those who serve our country, first responders, and those less fortunate than ourselves. It is in your most blessed name I pray. Amen.
Thank you. And our Pledge of Allegiance tonight by Councilman Gardner, but we see that we have Boy Scouts, and we have a tradition of inviting the Boy Scouts up. And with the permission of Councilman Gardner, we'll invite you all up. Please, Troop 747-768, come forward and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, if you so would. No, up there. Okay, the mic is right in front of you. You can talk into the mic.
Into the mic?
Yeah. And then the flag's up here.
You guys get the flag?
Please rise.
The audience, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Those who are in uniform, please salute. Those who are not, put your hand over your heart. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. 2. Please be seated.
Thank you, boys. Okay, presentation. That leads us to the student liaison from El Toro High School. And here in Lake Forest, we love our Chargers.
Good evening. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Joseph Suri here, reporting to you the past and upcoming events at El Toro. El Toro has been very busy with our annual Dodgeball Tournament. The tournament began last week with last month, with 67 teams and is now down to 2 teams, D1 Bound and Further Boys. The finals will be played tomorrow at lunch in the gym. More great news from El Toro is El Toro's drama department just hosted a great musical, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. The musical was a great success, even selling out one of the nights. A huge thanks goes out to El Toro's drama department for making it all possible. Thank you. Another major event taking place at El Toro is El Toro's ASB elections. Campaigning for all new positions will start next Monday. I messed up because I thought we had school next week, but we have spring break. Sorry about that. So it'll start April 17th, the Monday we get back from spring break. El Toro's spring sports are in full swing and doing very well. El Toro's boys and girls track and field beat San Juan Hills in their past meet and hope to continue winning. More great sports news is El Toro's boys baseball beat Los Alamitos in a 3-1 hard-fought game on Saturday. Our boys lacrosse team has also been having a great season, winning both of their games last week, one going down to overtime. El Toro is very proud of all of its spring sports. More fun and exciting events coming up at El Toro are El Toro's spring sports having league games all week, minimum days on Thursday and Friday of this week, and spring break all of next week. Thank you all so much for listening. That's all for tonight. And as always, go Chargers.
You got to give us an update. Boys soccer, how'd they do?
Unfortunately, well, I'll talk about the positives first. They won CIF finals, which is a huge deal. But yeah, they went into the season, I think, 0-6, and then they won and became the best team in Southern Orange County, which is amazing. And then they made it all the way to state finals, but unfortunately lost. But they had a terrific season.
So basically, they were Southern California CIF runners-up.
Oh no, they won CIF. They won Division 1.
CIF, the regional state, or state
Oh yeah, the state runners-up.
runner-up.
Yeah,
Okay.
which is huge.
Go Chargers. You always
Yeah,
make
go
us
Chargers.
proud. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
That brings us to presentations, and I'll take a motion.
I'll move the presentations.
Second, all in favor, please cast your votes.
That motion passes unanimously. Agenda item 1, proclamation designating the month of April as DMV Donate Life California Month, submitted by City Clerk. And I'd like to invite Jim Salazar from DMV Donate California to the podium.
Thank you for once again being here. Why don't you give us an update of what you guys do?
Okay, thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mayor and Council, for making this Donate Life Month in Lake Forest. Donate Life is the pink dot on your driver's license. It's about organ and tissue donation and educating people why this is important. Why it's important to me? Because in 2012 I received a new heart and kidney. After 8 heart attacks, 5 open heart surgeries, and being told that really I wasn't going to make it very far. And here I am today, 5 years later. So,
Well, we're thankful you're here, and we're thankful you're here to help encourage all of us to sign up for donors. I'm very proud to come up and give you the certificate. You know, a lot of people don't think about it, but the fact is that at the end of your life, you've got a choice, and you can actually let another life live, as we have an example here. So I'm very proud to be the mayor and present this certificate and name April 2017 as DMV Donate Life Month here in Lake Forest. So thank you, sir. Thank you very much. You've been blessed. God bless you. You're looking good. I know you're feeling good too, right? Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Agenda item 2, legislative briefing from the Association of California Cities Orange County and the League of California Cities, submitted by City Manager.
Good evening,
Please
Mayor and
report.
members of the council. This evening, I'm going to ask Nicole Miller, our management assistant, to provide a very brief introduction to this item, introducing Heather and Tony.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. As the City Council is aware, the City operates a legislative advocacy program for the purpose of monitoring legislation that may potentially affect Lake Forest. As part of this effort, the City Council adopts a legislative platform annually, which provides a basis for these advocacy efforts. This platform clearly outlines the City's objective to consider the strategic goals and policy positions of its legislative partners, the Association of California Cities Orange County and the League of California Cities. Tonight, representatives from both organizations will present to the City Council. Heather Stratman, Chief Executive Officer of the ACCOC, is here to discuss the background of this organization and its advocacy efforts in the last couple of years. Following Ms. Stratman's presentation, Tony Cardenas, the League's Public Affairs Regional Manager for the Orange County Division, will discuss the group's advocacy efforts relative to specific policy areas and League membership benefits. Both speakers this evening welcome questions from the City Council, so I'll turn it over to Heather now.
Good evening, Heather. Thank you for being here. Thanks for the advocacy you do. And, you know, Association of California Cities, those of us that are involved in politics, we call it the ACCOC. So they are the association, the ACCOC. So thank you for being here tonight explaining.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. It's nice to be here. My name's Heather Stratman. I'm the Chief Executive Officer for the Association of California Cities, Orange County. I am going to move pretty quickly through the presentation in the interest of time. I do want to start off with, and most of you are familiar with who we are, but the Board of Directors last August took a fresh look at our mission statement, and I think it's an important slide to kick off the presentation. We provide the cities of Orange County a powerful regional voice on the public policy issues of today and tomorrow, and we do this through three legs: education that empowers, policy that is collaborative, and advocacy that's service-oriented. We stay within this mission, and it suits our membership quite well. In terms of governance, this is a very quick snapshot. We have a board of directors that I report to. Under that, a legislative and regulatory committee, and then several committees that deal with our policy issues. All of those policy initiatives that we collaborate throughout the region on all boil back up to my board of directors for final decision. Our membership, the cities of Orange County, regional government agencies, special districts, higher education, the business community, and nonprofit organizations. I'm always amazed on any given week the amount of outreach that I'm required to do because of our membership. It's vast, it's powerful. When you bring that group of people to the table to solve problems, the creative brain power is enormous, and I'm very proud of our membership base. Quick recap of 2016, we did a significant internal reorganization. I took over as CEO in February of 2016. The board of directors charged me with kind of turning the organization from a startup into growing up, and that took quite a bit of reorganization. We also went back to fundamentals. Who do we serve? We serve the cities of Orange County, and while that membership base is broad, the cities come first. And that was made very clear by the board. Customer service is always first and foremost on our mind. We did governance reorganization, everything from restructuring the board of directors to structuring our ledge committee. We focus heavily on inclusivity, so it very much is an approach of bring folks together rather than be exclusive to our membership. And then we're focused at advocacy at the regional, state, and federal level, and I'm going to touch on that further. Additionally, heavy education targeted at elected officials and city staff. The board charged me with creating work plans for each of those committees that you saw on the governance page, and those committees are to produce tangible products that our cities can use, and that ranges from best practice papers to white papers to model ordinances and beyond. And then extensive efforts have been made to form collaborations throughout the county, and I will touch on that a bit. Regional advocacy, this is everything from protecting our cities from additional fees at AQMD. We worked extensively on this issue, and I do have to give a lot of credit to AQMD board member, Mr. Robinson, for helping us to eliminate a provision in the draft air quality management plan that would have given AQMD additional oversight over your Ms4 permits. Those are very costly as it stands. Your regional boards already provide regulatory oversight of that. The AQMP would have added a second layer to that. And we are partnering very closely with the County of Orange on our homelessness efforts. The homelessness issue continues to be at the forefront of our agenda, and we work very closely with the county on this. State advocacy, we are sponsoring two pieces of legislation. The first one is a piece of legislation, AB 572. It actually just got through its first policy committee at 2 o'clock today. And this would provide a pilot program for Orange County cities to have a oversight inspector in Orange County to oversee our sober living homes and facilities. Just to give you a sense, we bear 40% of the statewide problem for sober living homes. We have an extensive issue here in Orange County. There's 14 inspectors across the state. If the city of Lake Forest were to call the California Department of Healthcare Services to ask for an inspector to come down, it would probably take them about a year. So what this bill will do will give us an inspector here locally that the cities can do a shared service agreement around. The second bill is a low moderate housing fund flexibility, and when redevelopment agencies were dissolved in 2013, many cities were sitting on remaining funding sources that could not be used through your successor agencies, either because those dollars were so low or because the flexibility of the definition of affordable housing is very restrictive. What we have proposed is to give flexibility back to those dollars so cities can use them as well as pool them together with your contiguous cities. So we think it's a pretty powerful piece of legislation. It will be heard in 2 weeks. Major legislative issues, everything from the governor's housing proposal, long-term water conservation mandates, transportation fees and taxes, which we've all heard a lot about in the recent week, small cell sites. There's a piece of legislation that we're dealing with on that. So the state agenda is very robust. In addition to that, federal advocacy, we are supporting Congressman Darrell Isa's piece of legislation to reform the federal issues that we're dealing with on sober living homes. We are behind him in a very significant way on this piece of legislation, to the point of we are forming a Western Cities Coalition, cities outside of the state of California, Nevada, Utah, and Arizona, who are inundated with the same challenges that we're having. FAA regulations on drones. We just issued a countywide model drone ordinance. Homelessness, obviously, issues, that's very extensive. Dealing with the implications of the passage of Prop 64, whether we like it or not, it's here, and we have to deal with that in a proactive way to do what's best for our cities. And then infrastructure funding. Educational opportunities, we run a program, PPMA, through UCI, which is an accredited program for new council members who are looking to understand public policy at a deeper level. We do numerous workshops, forums, and infrastructure tours on emerging issues, all very educational based. Land use training. We're kicking off an Orange County Leadership Symposium this year in conjunction with every one of the regional agencies across the county, and bringing learning to work, which is specific to city staff and run through Cal State Fullerton Center for Leadership. My favorite hashtag that we use in our social media is OC Working Together. My staff makes fun of me, but I think it's genius. ACC is the only organization in this county that has the ability to bring together the membership base that I described. And I just reemphasize that's a very powerful membership base when you bring those stakeholders together. We believe deeply in collaboration and creating an inclusive environment to problem solve. And I think lastly, we're a really small staff doing a tremendous mountain of work, but we're extremely flexible and lean and enterprising. And we're membership led, so it's the membership really gives me the direction in terms of what are the issues that we're addressing. And our board of directors stands by that very strongly. I will stop there. I'm happy to answer any questions. And if not, I will turn it over to Tony.
All right, Council. Mayor Pro Tem, you have questions?
Hi, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
You mentioned a couple things, and you don't have to give me a long detail, but what is an Ms4 permit?
Those are your stormwater permits, your stormwater capture permits.
Okay. And then you mentioned sober living homes, and you're now working to have a local investigator. Is that person currently working on it, or is this someone you're looking to?
So the piece of legislation that we're sponsoring, AB 572, would allow Orange County to do this basically pilot program to allow an inspector to be housed here locally in our county.
When do you expect that to be?
The legislative session ends late summer, early fall, so we would have a decision then. It would go to the governor's desk, fingers crossed, in September of this year.
Great, okay. Great, thank you.
Councilman Robinson.
Thank you for being here. Really appreciate your time tonight and for your advocacy on behalf of the residents of Lake Forest. So I don't really have any questions, just more of a comment. I'd love to see more events in South County whenever possible, and I'm sure working with our staff, we have some available rooms at our new sports park, so it'd be great if we could have one in town if you need a venue. So
absolutely,
thanks.
We're always looking for venues. Thank you.
Yep.
As someone that has participated quite often with ACCOC, I want to thank you for your advocacy and also the ideas we get to exchange with other council people from other parts of the county. It's always good to network and exchange ideas. And the fact is, unified together, we're strong. And that's what I stress, that unified we're strong, and the state of California is always looking at ways that they can whittle away local control. And local control means that you, the people of Lake Forest, have more power because you get to vote on us rather than vote for our state elected officials, which are underrepresented in the state of California up in Sacramento. So I want to thank you for your advocacy and your hard work, and you guys do so much with so little, so thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Voights, members of the City Council. Tony Cardenas with the League of California Cities in the Orange County Division. About 2 years ago, I was here to highlight some of the benefits of the League. Tonight, I thank you for the opportunity to highlight some of the legislative priorities that we're dealing with up at the Capitol. One of your first attachments is it deals with transportation. The governor and Democratic leadership at the Capitol have agreed on a massive transportation infrastructure funding package. It's called the Road Repair and Accountability Act of 2017. One of the things this does is it raises $5.2 billion on an annual basis through a sales tax increase on gasoline, heavily pushed by the Democratic Party. It also has significant reforms to Caltrans and other areas of government, which was pushed by the Republican Party. The League has been closely monitoring this issue for the past 2 years now. The attached analysis is a 3-page detailed analysis on the framework of that package. We've also hosted a webinar for our member cities highlighting what we know, that what's in the framework of the package. We've also been meeting directly with the governor and his staff, and we have, I would say, 2 main questions that we're asking. One is, what is the direct allocation to cities, direct allocation, and 2, what are the protections of those revenues? Because as we all know, the state creates a funding source, and then they're all too happy to take it away when they need it. So the 2 bills that are, actually one bill is SB 1, that contains the funding formulas as well as the reforms, and ACA 12, Assembly Constitutional Amendment 12, that contains the protections of those revenues, which, if passed, would go before the voters in 2018. I would say the bottom line, if cities have to stomach a sales tax increase, we have to ensure that cities get their fair share. The League has definitely been on the table and not on the menu, as they say. When we get more answers and details to the questions we're asking, I will forward that to the city. In addition to, in terms of legislation and some of the bills that I quickly wanted to highlight, I would say the general theme continues to be that we're fighting and protecting for local control and your local authority. Some of the bills I'm going to highlight are clear examples of that. SB 649 by Senator Hueso. The League actually formed a coalition to formally oppose this bill. It deals with your local authority on the time, place, and manner of placement of small cell phone towers. Just today, I issued out an action alert to all Orange County cities letting them know about this bill. Basically, what it does is it preempts your local authority. In any zone, a cell tower could be placed, future revenues taken away. The bill was heard today in the Senate Senate Energy Communications the Senate Energy Communications and Utilities Committee. It was passed unanimously, 11-0, and it's now going to be heard in the Senate Governance Committee. So we're asking cities to join us in opposition. I have a sample opposition letter, hard copy here, to give to your staff, which I'll do so after my presentation. The next bill also deals with your local land use authority. That bill is SB 35 by Senator Wiener out of the Bay Area. It deals with RENA numbers, and basically, if the state gives the city of Lake Forest its RENA numbers and the city doesn't put them in, if those RENA numbers meet certain criteria that's defined by the state will put those RENA numbers in for you. Again, the bill is SB 35. Keep in mind, last year the governor had a proposal. It was called the By Right Housing Proposal. It basically would have eliminated a city's local land use authority, made it nothing more than ministerial. This bill is a reincarnation of that bill. We're leading the charge to oppose, and we're asking cities to also join us in opposition. That's SB 35. We don't just oppose bills, we also offer solutions and ideas. One example is SB 540 by Senator Roth. It's a League-sponsored bill. It deals with affordable housing. We want to help streamline the process of housing projects. What this bill would do is it would put CEQA and the environmental review process at the start. And once the parties agree to those terms, the city is essentially immune from litigation for 5 years in case anybody wants to stop those projects. Again, that bill is SB 540. And it's going to be heard tomorrow in the Senate Governance and Finance Committee. Yeah, in terms of the Orange County Division, as I mentioned, I manage the Orange County Division of the League. We have our own board of directors of Orange County elected officials. They do adopt positions on bills. One bill that I do want to bring up is SB 54 by Senate Pro Tem Kevin De Leon. We've all heard of sanctuary cities and rule of law cities. This bill is titled, in essence, the Sanctuary State Bill. And what the bill would do is if an undocumented individual is arrested for a controlled substance, the local law enforcement agency has to notify the appropriate federal agency. This bill would outright prohibit that. In addition, it would prohibit local law enforcement from using any resources, from detaining, arresting, investigating anybody for immigration purposes. Our division took a strong opposition to it. It is a state mandate. It does tell our local law enforcement how to operate. Bless you. And we're asking cities to join us in opposition as well. We also have a hard copy of our letter that I will supply to staff. So those are a couple examples of some of the legislation we're dealing with. In terms of other topics, we're dealing with homelessness, as was already talked about. We're trying to address homelessness, give cities the tools it needs to prevent, assist, and reduce homelessness. We have a task force with the California State Association of Counties. We're going to be drafting recommendations and proposing those to the governor. Other attachments that are in there are 2017 strategic goals for your review. I also included a return on investment matrix that shows the city's financial benefits from being a League member, and a brief document on League benefits. I would like to announce that the Orange County Division is going to host, and I would like to invite you all to attend a pension reform workshop on May 5th in the city of Irvine from 1 to 4 p.m. I haven't formally sent the announcement out yet, but I will tomorrow or the following day. We're going to paint an actuarial picture of the financial landscape of what unfunded pension obligations look like, what options cities have, and so we hopefully give cities some tools and takeaways from that meeting. With that, I'll just conclude my presentation. I thank the city for its active participation in the League and our conferences and serving on our policy committees. And I'll open for any questions you may have.
And so I'll open up to council. I actually serve with the ACCO, or the California League of Cities, on their Rev and Tax board. And last week we had our committee meetings out in Ontario, and we talked about this road repair bill that would add 18 cents a gallon to our already high gas prices here in the state of California. So my question was to one of the Democratic legislators that were there, are they still going forward with the vehicles traveled miles tax? And he says they're working on that, and he said they're trying to implement it, and they say, but that's the problem, they say that they're looking for ways that they can eliminate the gas tax if they put vehicles traveled miles. And I think that once Sacramento or Washington gets a tax in place, it's a hard thing for them to let go of, because they're always looking for ways they can get cash for their lack of conservative fiscal policies. And so I want to say that California League of Cities, you guys did a wonderful job in fighting Proposition 22, which actually went after all our redevelopment money. And so I think that, standing together, unified as cities, we can save local control. And so I want to thank you for doing all that you do and being a great advocate here in Orange County.
Thank you, Mayor Voights, and thank you, City Council, for the opportunity to present tonight. Yes.
Just, we're one of the few cities in California that have zero in our unfunded pension liability. So it's
lucky you.
Quite an accomplishment. And I think a lot of
that's a tremendous accomplishment. A lot of cities would be very jealous of that.
I think a lot of credit goes to previous councils and our staff for keeping a tight ship. Also, I just wanted to mention more of a comment, and maybe just briefly get your take. I know the state legislature complains about all the issues that the federal government's pushing down to them, but I think it's so ironic that they just turn around and push, issues down to us. So, I appreciate the local control. I think that's very important, and I think the best government is the local government.
Yes, and the League has a long history of fighting, state mandates, unfunded state mandates, and you're absolutely right. We firmly believe in local control, that cities should have the discretion to choose the direction for their communities and not on high from the state capital.
Councilman Robinson.
Thank you for being here. My same comment that I had for Heather, so feel free to contact our staff about using our facilities here. Love to see some meetings in South County. I know you get some down here every once in a while, and definitely appreciate that. Appreciate your advocacy on behalf of the residents of Lake Forest. And I just have one question from, I appreciate your passing along the letters of opposition to those bills that you mentioned. I wanted to briefly have you elaborate a little bit on Senator Waso's bill regarding small cell sites. We've had some discussion here at the dais about small cell sites, and if this bill is to pass, my understanding is that it's going to cap the fees that we can charge. Is that correct?
I believe so. I believe there is a cap on those fees.
Okay.
What I also have here is I have our coalition opposition letter that provides more. It's a 4-page opposition letter. I'll leave here as well. This was also sent out in my action alert this afternoon. But I can find out if the question is what is that cap on the bill.
So yeah, my question would be about the cap, and I figured, Carlo, that you're working on this fairly closely. But my question is the cap, and then also when we dealt with the tree trimming wage and hour issues, we were able to grandfather in because we had contracts in place. So I'm just kind of curious because I know we had that discussion kind of. It's in limbo right now regarding small cell sites. So I just wanted to see if there was if there's any possibilities of getting in before a bill passes if we see it passing, and then if that would provide us any protections from a revenue perspective.
Mr. Mayor and members of the council, we have been following many of these bills that were discussed, including this one. We've worked a little bit with BBK to do a preliminary analysis on this specific bill, and haven't yet found a grandfather clause that would specifically allow us to retain a contract that was in place and not have the state overrule that.
Okay.
To the second point, there is a revision to the amount of revenues the cities could collect from small cell sites. There are 2 specific ways in which the bill would allow that to occur, and there are some fairly complex FCC calculations that are used to determine what is the leasable space on each of these public facilities, and we plan on preparing an analysis for you that will discuss some of those issues in your small cell report, which is forthcoming.
Great. Okay. Thanks a lot. That was just I was wondering if there was any timeliness to it, so I appreciate the fact that you're keeping an eye on it. So thank you.
And I'll find that specific answer, and I work closely with Carlo on legislative issues, so I'll follow up with Carlo as well.
Great. Thank you very much. And both the League and ACCOC, I think that you both do an admirable job advocating on our behalf. So I think that you both have very unique and different benefits to the city of Lake Forest, and I'm glad that we have you both advocating for us. So thank you very much.
Very good. Thanks. Have a good evening.
And as mayor of the city of Lake Forest, I want to reiterate the offer made to have you guys come down and use our sports park for a members meeting, whether it be the ACCOC. We have a lovely sports park, 86 acres right underneath Saddleback Mountain, and it'd be a great place to have a venue. So I hope that you guys use us here in Lake Forest.
I will take you up on that, Mr.
All right.
Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Thanks for being here tonight.
One more comment or I guess question, maybe this is to staff. Is that I think we've talked about this briefly, about the deadline coming up with this bill. Would there be opportunities for us to do like maybe a contract with kind of anyone who would be interested in potentially doing a bid, because I think we want to do a RFP, not really have any work until the RFP is actually awarded, so that we kind of have a contract in place. Is there any, maybe we could talk about that further offline, but I think just my thought would be we could kind of do some, we could potentially have a contract in place, but really wait to execute it, in essence, until the RFP is done. Anyway.
Okay. Without further ado, any other questions? Thank you. Well, that brings us to public comment. At this time, members of the public may address the City Council regarding any items within the City of Lake Forest. No action may be taken on items not listed on the agenda unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 3 minutes per person with an overall time limit of 30 minutes for public portion comment agenda. Any person wishing to address the City Council on any matter, whether or not it appears on the agenda, is requested to complete a request to speak form available at the door and complete it and turn it into Carlo over here in the corner before being heard by the City Council. When you are speaking, there will be 3 lights, the first being green, then you'll have 30 seconds left when it turns yellow, and then at your time expires, the light will turn red. At that time, your public comment period has ended, and the council requests that you conclude your comments and save any future general comments for the future meeting. Madam Clerk, do we have anybody from the audience?
Yes, Darlene Carpenter, followed by Karen Veroni.
Good evening. Thank you for being here.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for your attention. I'm here on behalf of the Amigos de la Colina, docents of Heritage Hill Historical Park. Our mission is to promote our local history within the community, and we're currently working on a park betterment project, the Timeline Project, and to enhance our park. We have a very rich history, and I'd like to remind you that we have history ranging from the Ahoshman to the Rancho era, cattle ranching to tenant farming, the railroad boom to the rural agricultural era, to our current technology and commercial industries. Our history is very rich in this area. Matter of fact, the time capsule from the city of Lake Forest, when it was incorporated, is buried on our grounds, and it's visited by thousands of visitors every year. So let's talk numbers. We get over 23,000 visitors annually to our park. In the fiscal year 2016-2017, we have scheduled 100 guided children's tours. We have 3 different historic interpretive tours, hands-on, living history, and Native American, covering all areas of our history. In 2016-2017, the average number of children who will pass through our park will be over 4,000. Plus our walk-in tours for impromptu visitors, scout tours, and special groups. In 2016-17, we are working with you to host 3 City of Lake Forest community events, the Autumn Harvest Festival, Candlelight Walk, and of course Rancho Day is coming in just 4 weeks. We are hoping to elevate the impact of Heritage Hill with a permanent timeline. The project has been approved by OC Parks. The Acorn Group, we're working with them on the conceptual design, and the cost estimate at this time is approximately $30,000. Cost benefit is priceless. Donors will be recognized. The Amigos de la Colina Docent Organization has committed to be a donor, but I just want you to know there's no deep pockets here. We raise approximately $1,300 every year, which supports our interpretive programs and also our park betterment projects. OC Parks has agreed to be a donor. The City of Lake Forest should be a donor, because after all, this timeline is us. It's a golden opportunity for you to really showcase our city in its 25th year. With that, I'd like to call up Karen Verone, my friend and fellow docent. She has some additional information for you about our timeline project.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to address the council. My name is Karen Verone, and I've been in the community, a resident of Lake Forest for 31 years, and I am a volunteer docent at Heritage Hill Historic Park. We are very fortunate that we had a small group of volunteers that treasured the history of Old El Toro and Saddleback Valley and organized to save several historic structures. Currently, design of the proposal for the timeline will represent in 4 panels covering 5 historic eras from the middle 1700s to present day. We are prepared a facsimile mock-up of Rancho era timeline panel for you. It covers from 1830s to the 1880s and shows important events for not only the community, but also for events in the nation, which include, here we have, let's bring it over here, Joseph Serrano, when he came out here and got the property. Okay, down here we show the Battle of the Alamo, and up here we show California Gold Rush. Down here we drop down and we also show Mexican-American War, and also when we became a state in 1850. We also go over here and we show the Serrano adobes when they were built in approximately 1863. And down here we show the beginning of the war and Gettysburg and 1865 when President Lincoln was shot. Over here we show the first commercial orange fruit when we planted our all our plantings for the and down here we also show the invention of the telephone. So this is just one of the panels. We have 3 other ones that we're going to show, and we thank you for your time. We're hoping that so far our donors right now are the Amigos and OC Parks, and we're hoping that Lake Forest will also help us out because, you know, we are Lake Forest, and you have this beautiful park inside Lake Forest that is used continuously throughout the year, and we figure it will help.
So I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you for you guys and what you guys do for Lake Forest and keeping the spirit of Old El Toro alive here in the valley. People don't realize the history that we have alive through Heritage Hill, and it's not really, to me, it's not really, and to those that come from all over the county, don't realize that it's a park because it's really a hidden gem of history. And so we appreciate you guys and the tours you guys give. Why don't you give your hours for tours for school children, Boy Scouts? Hey, Scouts, have you been to Heritage Hill? Any of you boys been to Heritage Hill? Okay, good. I want to see all your hands up next time. So, it is something that we appreciate. And, El Toro, our Lake Forest has a rich history. And so thank you for doing that. And we have our budget meetings coming up next month. And at the end of our council meeting, we'll try to put something together for that. So, and we can do something and see what we have come up with.
Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
David Carter, followed by John Irish.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council and staff. I'm Dave Carter, 32-year resident of Lake Forest, and as you all know, I am working with Boys and Girls Club to bring and establish a club in the city of Lake Forest. What I wanted to do tonight was just let you know that we have sent out the invitations for our major fundraiser, which is A Night Under the Stars. Hopefully you will all receive one. Some I understand already have. I've sent it out to everyone that I could muster and find an address for, and I think I've got everyone. If you didn't receive one, please let me know, and I'll get some information to you. Or if you have anyone else that is interested in supporting what we're trying to do, give them my information, and I will let you know. It's going to be on June 3rd. That's 2017. And it'll be at the Sky Garden at the Hyundai Capitol Building. And for those of you who have not been there before, it is a marvelous view of the Southwest from that particular vantage point. So I want to thank you all for your support and time, consideration, and we're looking forward to talking with you some more.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for representing and helping the kids of Lake Forest have a place for after-school programs.
Thank you very much. All right.
John Irish, followed by Heiko Peschel.
The parade's here.
No, actually, it's a little bit different take tonight,
Okay,
Scott.
good to see you, John.
Okay, thank you. John Irish, 40-year resident of Lake Forest, and good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here this evening not to ask the city to give something to the public, but to announce that a segment of the public will be performing a service to benefit the city of Lake Forest. Wow. In the interest of brevity, I will focus on the 5 W's: who, what, why, where, and when. starting with who. The Kiwanis Club of Lake Forest is the catalyst behind this community service project. We're partnering with the Public Works Department and Brightview Landscape Services, Home Depot, and volunteers from throughout the community. What? We will be performing landscape upgrades to one of the city's parks. Our vision is to procure and install, at no cost to the city, some 646 plantings. Why? Each year, the Kiwanis International Organization encourages its worldwide member clubs to engage in a community project in their area. We reached out to Public Works, who identified a city park in need of additional plants and for which they had no budget. Where? The designated venue is Serrano Park, a wooded area on Serrano between Lake Forest Drive and Toledo. And incidentally, it's adjacent, right adjacent practically to Heritage Hill Park too. When? The planting activity will commence on Earth Day. We chose that for the ecological thing and all the rest and tried not to get very political about it at all, which is Saturday, April 22nd, beginning at 7:30 a.m. Brightview personnel will instruct the volunteers, dig holes using augers to save time, and you'll get a professionally dug hole, and then the volunteers can then perform the plant placement and watering. I could provide a lot more detail, but I'll conclude by expressing our thanks to the sponsorship of Home Depot and especially to Brightview Landscape Services. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John, for beautifying our park along Serrano Creek. That creek is right by the horse stables that runs along Serrano Park, and so you're right, it's adjacent to Heritage Hill right below that. So what a great, beautiful thing that you're doing. So thank you so much for that. That's the Kiwanis of Lake Forest, and that'll be April
22nd. Saturday, April 22nd, we'll start.
Starting at 7 a.m.
Starting at 7:30 a.m.
7:30 a.m. Right. Thank you, Mr. Irish.
Okay, thank you.
Heiko Peschel, followed by Cynthia Cantrell.
Hello again. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, city staff, etc. Heiko Peschel, 4 Perel Avenue, Foothill Ranch. And I got a whole list of things here. Let's start off with, in the news this week, the county is planning on building out their section of the old El Toro Marine Base. Have they figured out what they're going to do for all that traffic? I know one of our council folks, Ms. Basil, is on the OCTA, and I'm sure hoping that they will take a serious look at the increased amount of traffic between what Lennar is going to do there, what the county is going to do there, and what the city of Irvine is going to do there. I would like to have them look at the continuation of Portola Parkway between Lake Forest and Irvine, but that'll only be a small part, because that whole part of the world there is going to be a real zoo in about 10-15 years when they start to build it out. Item 1. And next, building out the area around here, I noticed we built a whole section called Baker Ranch and didn't provide them with any schools. And I know that's not your department, that's the school district's. But if we're going to do any more developing in the future, and I know we are, that's the way the city has to go, that we get the school district on board beforehand, see if the developer can save them a little bit of land to build a school, and so that the parents don't have to try to kill each other when they go to Foothill Ranch. Because I have seen the traffic up there in the morning. I hear enforcement has improved to the point where that's a good thing, and I'm all in favor. I see a lot more police cars in Foothill Ranch these days, and I'm very glad to do that. One of our new neighbors works for the county, and when he's on patrol, he comes up and has a look around, and we appreciate that. And guess what? No more Baker Ranch. Okay, I think I got them all. Leah, if you would do me a favor, ma'am, and work with the OCTA, since you're there now, on improving our transportation down here, because we're really going to need it. Thank you all.
I wish I was. I'm actually on the OCFA.
Oh,
Those
you're on
darn
fire.
acronyms.
I'm sorry, wrong acronym. You're on the Fire Authority. I forgot. Which one of you is on the OCTA?
There's nobody.
Nobody from Lake Forest?
No.
Oh. You mean I got to beat up on Isle Marie again? Okay, thank you.
You know, I know people on the OCTA board.
Thank you.
We'll reach out.
Appreciate it.
Cynthia Cantrell, followed by Donna Snow.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor Boyds.
Good evening.
Fellow council. I'm here this evening. I am concerned. I work in the city of Lake Forest, and this is, I want to address Dr. Gardner. I believe you were on the Lake One HOA board prior to being elected to the Lake Forest City Council. Is that right? I feel you have had a conflict of interest because you held a position on your HOA board for almost a year while also sitting on the city council at the same time. But then you stayed on the board while your HOA was preparing for litigation with the city of Lake Forest. Do you think this was a conflict of interest? Who did you represent, the city or your HOA? What decisions on the HOA board did you take against the city of Lake Forest? Any lawsuits, any claims? Your wife took your place on the HOA board, and then your HOA with your wife on the board of directors decided to sue the city. Was your wife's involvement, did she vote to sue the city? Has your wife made any decisions to sue the city of Lake Forest as an HOA board member? I think it's hard to believe that you and your wife never talked to each other about the HOA lawsuit with the city. Have you ever talked to her about this issue? It appears that your wife is just a proxy for you on the board of the HOA so you can stay involved. Then you received an FPPC letter that states that you can't participate in closed session. Did you participate in the closed session? There are many ethical issues that this represents. I think there should be an investigation into all of these potential conflicts of interest and potential unethical and conspiring behavior. Thank you.
Thank you.
Donna Snow, followed by Sharon Logan.
Good evening. Can you repeat your name again, please? Donna. Donna, your last name?
Snow.
Snow. Go ahead.
Okay, hi.
Good evening.
I just wanted to say the same thing as my friend, because I'm a concerned neighbor. And I think if you are on the Lake Forest Homeowners Board and the City Council at the same time, and there's a lawsuit by the HMO against the city, I don't know how you can, do both. I think that's not, it's not okay. And just want to make this short, I just summarize. I think either you or your wife should resign your respective positions in the City Council or the Homeowners Board, and there should be a city investigation into these potential conflicts of interest and potential unethical behavior. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharon Logan, followed by Ted Pearl.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Sharon Logan.
Sharon Logan. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the Lake Forest City Council. My name is Sharon Logan. I'm here to discuss before the City Council Orange County Animal Care. I am the plaintiff in Logan versus OC Animal Care. I sued the Orange County Animal Care with a 24-page lawsuit regarding their illegal and unwarranted euthanasia of owner-surrendered animals entering the shelter within an hour of the owner surrendering that animal against the that violates California state law, the Hayden Act. We currently have a 48-page lawsuit settlement agreement in place with OC Animal Care filed with Orange County Superior Court. In June of 2016, OC Animal Care killed 942 pets. In July of 2016, OC Animal Care killed 795 pets. In August of 2016, OC Animal Care killed 776 pets. In September of 2016, OC Animal Care killed 637 pets. In October of 2016, OC Animal Care killed 523 pets. November of 2016, 372 pets. December of 2016, 264 pets. Over the course of 7 months, OC Animal Care killed 4,309 pets. If Austin, Kansas City, Ventura, Tennessee, Sacramento can all become no-kill, what is the problem at OC Animal Care? OC Animal Care is precisely the kind of animal shelter and the shelter director management and shelter staff that breeds a culture and values killing animals over saving lives. The unabated and unwarranted habitual and systematic killing of healthy adoptable pets at OC Animal Care on a monthly basis must stop. I was at OC Animal Care on March 13th of this year. I videotaped over 201 empty open kennels, and they are still killing 20 to 30 animals a day, every day, with 200 empty open kennels. This killing must stop. I will continue to inform and educate the public, community, and residents of OC Animal Care practices, and I will continue to advocate for the animals at OC Animal Care and the need for immediate shelter reform at OC Animal Care.
Thank you.
Ted Pearl, followed by Kayla Francis.
Good evening, Mayor Votes.
Good evening.
And, council members. My name's Ted Pearl. I'm a 23-year homeowner on Costabella Drive in the Dean Homes in the southern part of Lake Forest. And I have a concern about power outages in our neighborhoods that are storm-related. One was caused by a traffic accident going into a transformer. The other, I'm not certain of the cause. The one in January, which occurred on Muirlands Boulevard, put the power out for 161 homes. If you break that down, that's about maybe 1% of Lake Forest population of 78,000. At least 700 to 800, maybe more people. There was also a storm-related outage in September when we had that day of unusual thunderstorm activity. Now, the wiring in our district is above ground, and I'm just wondering about something that will, like it or not, cost money. And I know that it's expensive. I don't expect much at this point, but I would like to see, if possible, a feasibility study of moving our overhead wiring underground. As I said, I do see that as costly. I will admit that. But I'm just thinking in terms of the long run of enhanced revenue to the city by increased property value in neighborhoods with underground utilities, in terms of home beautification, home attractiveness, that sort of thing. My biggest concern, though, was that the power outage in January affected these 161 homes for 10 hours. And to me, excuse me, please, that's an issue of public security and public safety as well. So it's more than mere convenience. Again, I know this costs money. I'm not expecting any miracles at this time, but I'm wondering about the utility of a feasibility study for placement of overhead wiring in the Dean Homes area. This is roughly from El Toro Road to Ridge Route, from Muirlands Boulevard to the railroad tracks. I'm just wondering about a feasibility study for underground utility placement in that area. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Kayla Francis, followed by Josh Fisquet.
Just to make sure, you said El Toro to Ridge Route, was it Muirlands?
Yes.
To the train tracks? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Kayla, thank you for coming tonight.
Of course, thank you for having us. I just wanted to thank you for your service to our community tonight, council members. I addressed the city council a couple weeks ago in reference to Congresswoman Mimi Walters and her unwillingness to engage with her constituents. It was truly inspiring to see you follow through with your promise to reach out to Congresswoman Mimi Walters and our other representatives to ensure that the voices within our community are heard. I greatly appreciate your willingness to be a voice for our community when we feel as though we are being silenced. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Josh Fiskay, followed by Larissa Fellett-Clark.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. Josh, overtax resident of Lake Forest, and on the board of the Orange County Diversity Council. Andy, I was disappointed, but not surprised at your remarks at the Orange County Register when you replied to recall leader Larissa Clark's comments alluding to the fact you attend so many city events that it rises to the level of abandonment of your position. You were quoted as saying that you attend the Pet Expo and Snowfest. That may be true, but 2 events out of 24 events, that's horrible. So you missed more than 20 events. Now, that's just as bad as the hillbilly basketball players in your home state of Indiana. The important events you missed are the 5 parks workshops, all held on a Saturday, where you can easily attend it, where residents repeatedly ask for more gardens and open space in the city. All 4 chamber workshops on social media, new business, exporting under the Trump presidency, and women entrepreneurs. You also missed the Saddleback Valley District School Superintendent meeting and the Medal of Valor presentation. Everyone on the council was able to attend, even Dwight. Clients pay us to go above and beyond. Therefore, there is no way you can go above and beyond for the city where you dramatically are missing from so many city events. Lake Forest residents I talk to at these events feel patronized, insulted by the fact you tried to hide your poor record of attendance by mentioning 2 events that you happened to stumble on. You asked me at the ribbon cutting that I was shocked to see you at if I'm in favor of the recall. And to be honest with you, Andy, it's an emphatic yes.
Thank you.
Larissa Fellett-Clark, followed by Sherry Anderson.
Good evening.
Good evening. Larissa Fellett-Clark, resident of Lake Forest since 1998. Mr. Hamilton, my first night here after the meeting, you came up to me and wanted to get my contact information. We exchanged phone numbers. That evening, while we stood and chatted, you texted me. I have this conversation here. On 2/7, you texted me again after I invited you to tour my neighborhood. On 2/8, you agreed to this tour. Then I never heard from you again. On 2/16, I gave you a few proposed dates. I never heard from you. On 2/17, you told me you were too busy, and that is where the conversation ended. You stated that we didn't have any appointments. I will turn this in, and it clearly states we did. During this time, you voted against the Traffic Commission. You voted for the Gateway Center. You voted for a Residents' Bill of Rights. You voted in support of Mr. Robinson for his one-off comment motion that if a resident speaks, that they need to get a response within 2 weeks. You emphatically supported him in this. I haven't heard from you. Mr. Robinson, my email from January 7th still awaits a reply. I believe 2 weeks has passed on your one-off comment. All I hear is statements. I don't hear or see any action. There's a pattern here. Your talk doesn't match your walk. And with all of this and the statements you made to me with no follow-through, that's why I'm recalling you. Because all you do is feed lip service. Can you agree to come tour my neighborhood and see our issues? You're so concerned about traffic, parking, loitering, crime, schools, my daughter's crosswalk. Mr. Robinson, will I ever get a reply from your email? If you're going to vote, then support your voting record with actions to residents like myself and others. Please, it's at least respectful to return an email. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sherry Anderson, followed by Bob Holtzclaw.
Good evening.
Hello. I just sort of laugh. Conflict of interest. In this city, conflict of interest. I'm sorry to the people here, but the whole council's full of conflict of interest and nobody does anything. First, I want to question your decision to answer or not answer our questions of our residents. Doesn't the Brown Act give us the right to participate? In my opinion, your decision to answer questions late in the evening after everyone has been at the podium is a way to restrict our feedback and getting answers. We are in a working community. So many of the residents can't stay until midnight. Last time, I believe Councilman Gardner called out at least 5 names of residents who had already left by the time he was given permission for feedback. This should change immediately. Answer the questions when the residents are still here. It's only fair. And now you're limiting to all of our comments to 30 minutes. I think that's new. I didn't know we had that. This should be changed immediately. Councilman Hamilton, I read in the Orange County Register, you said the reasons for the recall are lies. So you're calling me a liar. Correct me. When did you not vote for developers, builders, city services, including the sheriffs, who contributed to your campaign? Didn't you vote for the 10-year contract with the county's high kill shelter? Haven't you approved massive construction? Look at our hills. They're covered with development. What's happening to our natural green areas? Have you approved new roads or schools? Don't you vote 90 to 100% of the time with Robinson and Voights, the 3 of you running the city? Didn't you approve Jolene Fuentes for the planning committee when we had other highly qualified candidates? The only qualification I know was her husband was the chairman of the GOP of Orange County. And she said at our meeting she does only what you tell her to approve. Didn't you call time out to our council, at our council meetings, treating our residents as children? How do you, have you approved Meals on Wheels for seniors? This is your chance. What's not true of what I just quoted? I'd like to know.
Bob Holtzclaw, followed by Andrew O'Connor.
Good evening.
Good evening. Bob Holtzclaw, resident of Lake Forest. Now that we had the rules laid down for signature gatherers just a few hours ago, and we'd like to know what Councilman Hamilton has for his set of rules. Are you going to harass women with your movie camera and make up YouTubes like you did before? We have copies of that still. Will you encourage thugs to threaten signature gatherers like at 99-cent store or stay in the way of signature gatherers? Will James Ross reappear? Well, I guess he has, huh? With unflattering Photoshop pictures of women like in the last recall. We ask people with high-ranking Republican leaders, like someone by the name of Fred something, that also gives thousands of dollars to Democratic campaigns. What kind of a Republican leader is that? And will you be mailing out Lake Forest newsletters with lies and truths like the last recall? I asked why you made a motion about Lake One and about the responsibility of the water quality at the duck pond, while Councilman Gardner was, his seat was empty. What was that all about, since it was already agreed on? The councilman and Councilman Robinson, I don't know, why did you speak up? Hamilton's a big boy, he can speak for himself. Did you make the motion just out of spite? Lake One residents would like to know why you actually made a second motion when the thing was already there. Actually, Jim, Tom Cagley and I were talking about old Army days, and we figured, well, what kind of person would be there that has no leadership quality? What kind of a job would you assign him? Well, we said something like supply or maybe accounting. And so don't give up your day job. Thank you.
Andrew O'Connor.
Madam Clerk, is my presentation passed out? Madam Clerk, is it?
Good evening.
Do you have my presentation, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, I got it.
Good evening. My name is Andrew O'Connor, Foothill Ranch since 1990. I've approached the dais many times to the infamous Gang of Three, and tonight I'm going to continue to talk about our lying councilman and our lying mayor. First, we'll start with the lying councilman, Hamilton. That at the March 21st City Council meeting, you responded to Ms. Clark's comments about the Nakase nursery by saying, I haven't voted on anything. I believe that's a lie. You met in closed session in this building, and it was noted on the agenda that the sole topic was the Nakase nursery. The meeting was called in compliance with the municipal code, and it required that you vote on various aspects of the proposals offered by Toll Brothers. While I understand by law you cannot disclose the details of that meeting, it would be impossible to have that meeting without a vote to either accept or reject the various details of that proposal, Councilman Hamilton. I also draw to your attention the comment in the Register, defending yourself against Ms. Clark's comments that you hadn't introduced any policies during your 2.5 years on the council. You bragged that you voted against changes in the council pay. Can I remind you that you voted against something that isn't equal to introducing new policies? You also claim responsibility for paying off the unfunded pension liability. I will remind you this idea was originally introduced by Councilman Adam Nick. We get plenty of lies from Mayor Voights. At the last meeting, he lied when he claimed that the vector control public comment was a presentation when he tried to cut Mrs. Clark off. I'm still waiting for Mayor Clark's to come clean from the last 2 months on his campaign promises right here. And I was supposed to get an answer in the last 2 meetings, so now I'm here for my 3rd meeting, Mr. Mayor, as you laugh at me disrespectfully, that you've yet to answer any of these questions. And are you going to do that tonight?
Not right now.
But are you going to do it tonight? It's before you, Mayor. Mr. Hamilton, your record is pathetic. Your behavior is incredibly bad. We don't need to add liar to your list of faults. Personally, I support the recall. Thank you.
Thank you.
We've had no further requests.
Let me see. There's a bunch of, I guess, Darlene and Karen have gone. That's the Heritage Hill people. During council comments, I'll propose that we support that. But just to let you know, I also sent them to speak with Jessica Gonzalez to see if some of our corporations in the city might also be donors on that. So I don't know what else is going on, but I did direct them in that direction. Heiko, yeah, I believe the Portola Parkway extension we need to, I don't know, is he here? He left too. Okay, so, well, is Mrs. Cantrell and Snow here? Are they there? Okay, so let's go through your list of issues with me. When I was elected to the city council, I wasn't the president of the HOA. Just for your information. When I was elected, I talked to the city attorney sitting over there. I thought maybe I should resign because there was a conflict. The city attorney told me no, I shouldn't. He didn't see a conflict. So I didn't resign. What he had me do was, with the HOA, set up a thing called a Chinese wall. I don't know why they blame that on the Chinese, but whatever it is, what it meant is whenever they had a meeting, that brought up the lawsuit, I had to leave the room, and then whenever they did the minutes, my minutes looked like an FBI thing with stuff blacked out. So I had no idea what was happening between the HOA and the city on the lawsuits. Subsequently, I ended my term and decided not to run again. Your insulting comments to my wife that she took my place are completely out of line, and it's also very much out of line to say she was a proxy for me. Obviously, you don't know my wife. And the laughs here come from those people who do know my wife. My wife was on the board of breast cancer survivors. She was a president of the Garden Club, president of Seroptimus. She helped raise over 250 tons of food for residents who couldn't support their dogs during the recession. I believe this city voted her Volunteer of the Year last year. My wife has an exceptional record and was elected on her own merits. She certainly wasn't a proxy for me. As far as the comments about her sharing the litigation, my wife hates politics. She almost tried to talk me out of running and threatened to leave me, as a matter of fact, if I ran again. So we spend very little of our time talking about politics. In any event, and I know nothing at all about except that I'm a homeowner in Lake One, so I know what's happening, what they tell us. But the lawsuit is covered in closed session, so I know nothing at all about, apart from what they tell any other home member. And subsequent to that, the FPPC, in distinction to what the city attorney had originally thought, the FPPC sent a letter and said that I shouldn't sit in on the city council meetings in which the city council talked about the water quality, because I had a $5 a year interest, that I might save $5 a year if somehow that was resolved. So, not wanting to interfere with that $5 interest, I have been excluded from all comments, and I even have to leave the room when you talk about it. So the city's happy to investigate me if you want to, but seems like a pretty silly waste of time. Sherry Anderson asked us to change the system to talk after speaking. Again, that seemed, half the people, more than half the people are already gone. That seems silly for us to be talking to that. Bob Hosol, you said you had a meeting, I guess, with Deborah Rose or with the city clerk on that. I'd like to thank the staff for doing that. There was a lot of bad behavior and just screw-ups the last time, so taking a proactive step is a really good thing to do. Thank you very much for your actions. And finally, to Andy O'Connor, who made a Freudian slip when he said Mayor Clark. She's not mayor yet. So, other than that, thank you everyone who spoke. Oh, and also on the young woman with Mimi Rogers. Mimi Walters. Who's Mimi Rogers? Actress. Well, they're both actresses, so that's you have to be an actor or an actress to get up here. We did talk just the other day with one of her representatives and said she is going to put something on. She's not only going to do it for Lake Forest residents, but she try to do it for all the residents, and they're trying to come up with a place where they could do it and hold a town meeting for all of us down here. And of course, Mayor Pro Tem Basil and I offered the city, but they may be looking for a bigger place if they do a bigger thing. So that's in motion. That's it. Thank you.
David Carter, are you still here? I don't see you. David, well, is he there? Okay, well, I'll check with David later then about my question. Yeah, I'm glad Jim had mentioned the Mimi Walters running into her representative. So I made sure that he knew that, he acknowledged that he got the invitation. He said he appreciated the offer to use our facilities, and they said they plan on using it. If the venue gets bigger, of course, that would change, but he knows that the invitation is open, and yeah, so that's good news. That's something. And as far as power outages go, in that area, El Toro, Ridge Route, Maryland's, we'll definitely have to look at that. We'll see. I'll have discussions with city staff, see what can be done, if it needs to be a CIP type of thing or whatever. We'll try to figure out something if it's if it really is a problem. And I guess that's. Oh, and the other thing is I will support your motion to speak after everyone presents individually, because we tend to lose so many people going home and they don't get their chance to hear our responses.
Council?
Just real quick, I've talked to the Migos people before, so it sounds like there might be a consensus item at the end of the meeting here. Let's see. John, thanks for what you're doing at Serrano Park. Really appreciate that. I remember being a part of a Kiwanis tree planting project back in 2001, shortly after I moved into town, maybe a couple years after, and so appreciate everything Kiwanis does. Let's see. Ms. Clark, I just wanted to mention I'm still willing to get together with you. I apologize if you feel like I haven't responded to your email from, I think you said January 7th. I know after the last meeting we spoke at length, maybe well over 30 minutes. We didn't, I don't think we put something on the schedule, but tried to have a pretty good dialogue. I hope you appreciated that time. I did. If there's more discussion that you want to have, then I definitely will follow up on your email. But sometimes when I don't follow up on an email, but I see someone face-to-face, gives me the opportunity to respond at that point. But your comments are well noted, and would be happy to talk to you further. So I don't think I have anything further.
Councilman Hamilton.
So I think, sorry, I guess I'm up next. So, Kiwanis, I think you guys do an amazing job throughout our community. This is going to be a great project. Excited to see it. So, thank you. So, on to the recall. I enjoy reading. It says in the petition, this is an accusation against me. While no new school or road is built, plans to rezone the 45-acre Nakasi Nursery to allow hundreds of new homes on Big Parkway. I don't even know where to begin on that. It's how big is that site? It's at least 2 times as big as 45 acres, right? So it's about 100 acres. So that's a pretty. No new road is built, so I don't know how people are going to get around a development if it were to be approved. But I don't know if there would just be bike paths and dirt paths. There will have to be some new roads built for any new development. But I think the biggest thing is that it says that I plan to rezone the nursery. There hasn't been any plans set forth before us. So I think it's kind of funny to have a recall petition for something that I might do. I don't even know what it is. We haven't seen any plans. So I don't know the future, and I don't know the future, and there is.
Come on, guys, quiet.
I have not made any decisions on plans that haven't been produced or submitted to the city. Lastly, I was the one who was the last one to text Ms. Clark. Said, sorry, have been pretty busy. Yes. maybe we can, in essence, meet sometime. So I haven't heard back from you. So that's according to my last text. We never agreed to a time. You said, thank you for taking the time to talk with me at length this evening. We've had conversations. So, no, this is my time. I was very respectful. So, you know, you had your opportunity to speak, and so now I have mine. You said even thank you very much for pressing counsel for us residents and parking permits. This is your speaking, your text. It was great to talk to you before the meeting. I wish the meeting didn't go downhill. Again, thank you. So, I was the last one to text, so that was, I'm waiting for you. And I would be happy to meet with anyone and everyone in the city to help our city improve and get to move forward. So.
And so with that brings us to the warrant registry. Item number 3, all matters listed on the warrant registry are considered routine and will be acted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the City Council, the public, or staff request specific items to be removed from the warrant registry for separate action. Have there been any requests to pull?
No, Your Honor.
Council? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Moved and seconded.
Second.
All, please cast your votes. Who was the first?
That motion passes unanimously.
That brings us to consent calendar, items number 4 through 8. All matters listed in the consent calendar are considered routine and will be acted by one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a member of the City Council, the public, or staff requests specific items to be removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Have there been any requests to be pulled?
Yes, Your Honor. Staff is asking to remove item 6 from the agenda altogether tonight and have it discussed. It'll come back at a future meeting.
Any staff or council?
I'll move the remainder.
And I'll second that. All in favor? Cast your votes.
Hold on, just one. So why are we removing it? Just kind of curious.
Mayor and members of the council, we had a question emerge about the contract, and so we want to do further research on that before we bring that back to the council.
Okay, is this a question from another bidder, or?
No, it's a question that staff had when they were re-reviewing it right before the meeting,
Okay.
and so they felt that it was important enough for us to chase down before we presented it to you.
Okay, would we expect it back 2 weeks from now? Or?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, I'll entertain. We have made motion and second. Please cast your votes.
That motion passes unanimously.
That brings us to discussion action items.
Agenda item 9, presentation from the Orange County Community Resource Director, submitted by City Manager.
Mayor and members of the City Council, we have a brief staff report by Assistant to the City Manager, Tomaina.
Thank you, Ms. City Manager. Good evening, Mayor and members of the City Council. So, as you know, the county recently appointed Mr. Dylan Wright as the new Department Director of Orange County Community Resources. Among other department operations, Mr. Dillon oversees Orange County Animal Care. Mr. Wright has over 16 years of experience with the county, beginning his career in 2001 with Orange County Waste and Recycling, where he most recently served as its director. Based on a prior request by the City Council, Mr. Wright accepted the city's invitation to speak this evening. In his presentation, Mr. Wright will be providing an update regarding the development of the new animal shelter and is available to address questions from the City Council.
Okay.
And as Mr. Wright comes up to the podium, I'd like to take the chance to introduce Samantha Atkinson. She is the Deputy Director of the Community Resources Department, and she is also a resident of Foothill Ranch.
Good evening, and good evening. Thank you for coming.
Good evening, Mayor Boats. Excuse me. Mayor Pro Tem Basil and members of the council. I'm very pleased to be here tonight. Already had a little bit of my background shared. Very grateful and glad to be appointed Director of OC Community Resources. The mission of the department is to connect people and resources, and as you may know or may not know, there are 5 distinct programs as part of Community Resources. It's OC Parks, OC Libraries, housing and community development, and homeless prevention. Bless you.
Thank you.
OC Community Services, and also OC Animal Care. And I'm very glad to be here tonight to make a presentation at the Council's request on the status of the new animal shelter that's being constructed. I did bring a handout with me for you that provides some detail. Construction is continuing and is anticipated to be complete in December. That's completion of construction. Target operation in January. There were some delays due to heavy rains this year, but everything is continuing otherwise on schedule. We're very glad for that. There are a number of project features that we've called out here: indoor and outdoor temperature-controlled kennels to provide ample space and comfort to the dogs in our care. And I should mention that a third-party consultant was brought in during the design process to give recommendations as to the best management practices in operation of the shelter. Also, multiple dog exercise yards to facilitate enrichment and dog play groups. Cats will be provided large cages, group cat rooms, and even catios for their lounging pleasure. That's a new word to me, a catio, so a covered area outside. Abundant use of natural light, superior ventilation and acoustical control, and then design elements that translate into less stress for homeless animals. Upon taking the position, I did, in the first week, go and tour the current facility. And what struck me most, after the initial, it is an old facility, a facility built in the 40s. It's a dilapidated facility, and all credit to staff for keeping it as best they can. In the meantime, very glad the county is moving forward, that the Board of Supervisors and all of our partner cities have taken that leadership role in assisting to construct the new facility. I think it's very important. And I was struck also by the staff there who have very positive attitudes and work very hard. We're very glad to walk me and Ms. Atkinson through the facility to see it. So with that, that concludes my presentation. I understand there may be some questions also for me. I don't know if it's now or if I wait.
Mr. Wright, how much time do you have?
Oh, dear. As much time as your council.
Well, good. Then I'm sure there'll be some questions coming from the council. I guess, first of all, do we have anybody from the audience?
We do, Your Honor.
Okay. Well, Mr. Wright, why don't I let the audience come in up to the mic, and then you won't reply to anybody verbatim. Just come up after they get done with their statements. Thank you.
Rose Tingle, followed by Sharon Logan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. Okay, I have about 3 requests, but I want to read a little bit first. The county animal shelter services close to 2 million residents, or 14 cities, and all the unincorporated area of Orange County. Prior to July of last year, it served 18 cities. From approximately 2008, a committee made of 7 administrative personnel from 7 contract cities named Financial Operations Advisory Board, or FOAB, met with the County Community Resources Director, then Steve Franks, now replaced by Mr. Wright, and the County Shelter Director, on site at the County Animal Shelter. I've referred to these meetings as clandestine, as minutes are not taken and the public is banned. There were many city council members in Orange County who did not even know it existed. The FOAB members as of 2014, per Steve Franks, were Maria Stipe from Garden Grove, Jen Box from Staten, Jennifer Cervantes from Rancho Santa Margarita, Don White, also chairman from Laguna Hills, Deborah Rose and Jim Wren from Lake Forest, Rick Otto from Orange, and Troy Bootsloff. During this time, 5 damning Orange County grand jury reports and a performance report were issued against the Orange County Animal Shelter, criticizing physical conditions and management of the 76-year-old county animal shelter. So my request, one request is, I would like you, the Lake Forest City Council members, to tell me individually your opinion as to why the shelter was allowed to deteriorate. I see I'm on yellow already. Therefore, moving forward, I believe members of the public, not city employees, experienced in animal welfare, must have a seat at the table of the monthly meetings held between the city manager's committee and the county in order to collaborate and assure conditions at the shelter provides humane care to the animals and taxpayers are kept informed. I have 5 such individuals with backups from Northwest, Central, and South County and myself, or whoever I deem to fill in for me, ready to attend these meetings. I would like Dylan Wright to advise the council if he will approve these public members to sit in on the subject meetings. If so, when, and if not, why not?
Thank you, Ms. Tinley.
Sharon Logan, followed by Sherry Anderson.
Good evening, Mayor and ladies and gentlemen of the Lake Forest City Council.
Good evening.
I just wanted to address that we are now 18 months into our lawsuit settlement with OC Animal Care. Nothing has changed in the 18 months. They have not done anything to change the policies and procedures that was stipulated in our 48-page settlement agreement. A shelter's job is to shelter animals. Nothing eclipses an animal's right to live or mitigates the shelter's obligation to shelter. Mr. Wright has stood before this council and talked about the new building and what's going to happen with the cats and dogs, which is all good. But OCAC can build a new shelter that looks like the Montage in Laguna Beach. But if you have staff, Hawkins, and upper management still there, the killings will continue unabated, just in a fancier environment. We need progressive minds running OCAC. Almost all of the complaints about OCAC and animal care relates to the issue of management, policies, false statistics, high kill rates. OCAC can build a new shelter, but the killings will continue. We need progressive minds running OC shelter, and I would like to ask Mr. Wright about the empty open kennel cage killings. Is he still going to allow animals at 20 or 30 months to be killed with 200 empty open kennels? And there is currently in place a class action federal lawsuit against OC Animal Care with 10 individual residents of Orange County. They are currently going to be suing OC Animal Care for illegal, unfair, and unethical business practices. There's no Lake Forest community members in the class action federal lawsuit yet, but if one joins our lawsuit, I will let you know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sherry Anderson.
Good evening.
Good evening. Welcome, Mr. Wright, to our wonderful city of Lake Forest in your new position with OCAC. I hope you take the lives of our lost and abandoned pets very seriously as we do. Their lives and care depend on your decisions and leadership. In my opinion, OCAC is breaking California law and committing horrible moral crimes. Our Councilman Voights, Hamilton, Robinson, as well as our Orange County supervisors know what a horror it is for our poor pets, but they obviously don't care. Research shows that 4 million pets taken into U.S. shelters, 99% were considered adoptable. California law states they have to be unadoptable to kill them. If that's the case, how can OCAC legally kill 70 to 80% of cats taken into the shelter? How can they kill over 700 pets a month? OCAC was sued last year by a vet for forging his name. Now more are being killed due to behavior problems. We have online videos of some of the pets rescued now with loving families and other pets. It means, in my opinion, OCAC is committing fraud and breaking the law. We are one of the wealthiest counties in the U.S. Why don't we have a no-kill shelter? U.S. research shows the public is increasingly demanding it. In a national survey, 96% of Americans said we have a moral obligation to protect our animals and that we should have strong laws to do so. Again, why don't we have a no-kill shelter? It reduces costs, it increases revenue, it supports a community business. There's a myth, no-kill is too expensive. Our community can't afford it. Truth, no-kill is cost-efficient, fiscally responsible, and a great economic boost to local communities. Given the cost savings and additional revenues it reduces, costs associated with killing, it enhances community support, adds an increase in adoption revenues and other user fees, and additional tax revenues. A community cannot afford not to embrace no-kill. We proved we can do it all of this locally for a lot less than we're paying OCAC. Last month, we paid OCAC over $600,000. At the time, we had one dog there. In 1998, California passed a law making it illegal for public and private shelters to kill animals when qualified rescue groups are willing to save them. It passed by an overwhelming bipartisan majority, 96-12. So why are you still killing and giving away our pets? Giving to animal-related charities is the fastest-growing segment in the American donations. Communities which adopt a no-kill orientation for animal control are reaping the benefits. I ask you, please, to start doing what's legal, right, and moral, and adopt a no-kill model, and let us out of this horrific 10-year contract so we can do it locally and save the lives of our pets.
Thank you.
There have been no further requests.
Okay. So, Mr. Wright, why don't you come back and counsel? I'll start. There's been a lot of public speakers here in the last year complaining about the horrid condition of the Orange County animal shelter, and I got to say that shame on us, because it is an old and dilapidated shelter, and after touring it and visiting it, it is old, and it's remarkable that it keeps the animals in even because it's so old. But I'm optimistic, and I've seen the plans, and I'm optimistic that it's going to be a beautiful new shelter. So that's really why you had my vote, because of the fact is that I saw and met with Dr. Hawkins and saw that not only is she a vet, but she's an animal lover, and I don't think people get into the veterinarian career wanting to kill animals. I think they get into the career of being a vet so they can help animals. And I know you guys have seen it all in the animal rights thing, but I think that you have good apples and bad apples. And I kind of, I've, as someone would say, you looked in her eyes, and I've seen there is compassion for the animals. And I think that there is a sincere effort on the behalf of Orange County Animal Care that you guys are making headway and making changes. One of the things that has come up time and time again is that people would like to know, what's this monthly meeting that you guys have that you have representatives of all the cities? What are those considered? Are those office or staff meetings, or what are those? What are they called?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The meetings are with a subgroup of the Orange County City Managers Association. It is, by contract, it is their meeting, and it is to discuss the terms and conditions of the contract as they stand, as they've been approved. To the extent that there are any changes to those, obviously they'd have to, to the terms and conditions, they'd have to come back to your council, all other participating cities, and the Board of Supervisors for approval. So they're really just administration of the contract, as you noted. If I may, I am aware also at the last council meeting there was a request sent, or that staff, by council's request, has sent a letter to the chairman of that committee, and I did have the opportunity to speak to him. We have our next meeting in April, and I know there will be discussion on that, and about how may be able to engage, or that committee may be able to engage in public discussion. I can't speak for him, but that is scheduled for discussion.
That was a request made by us, and if it's not monthly, maybe some kind of quarterly or something update to where they would have some transparency there is kind of what I think that they would like to see. Someone mentioned just a minute ago MC kennel killings. What is that considered? I don't even know what that is. So what's an MC kennel killing? What is it? Oh, empty kennels. Okay, I'm sorry. I was going, what's the MC?
Not having seen or have been privy to that specific data that's being referred to, I really can't answer to that. What I can tell you is that for any healthy or adoptable animal, there is no, we don't leave empty kennels, we're not killing them, but we will hold them until they're able to be adopted.
So me and Mayor Pro Tem actually toured just recently with Dr. Hawkins, and I'm a big dog lover, and there was a beautiful pit bull, and he looked like he was somewhere around a year old, but I was petting him, and the misnomer I think that's out there, I asked Dr. Hawkins, how much longer does this dog have before it can't be here anymore? And she looked at me and Mayor Pro Tem, and she says, why would you say that? I said, because don't they have a time limit they can be here? She says, that dog is adoptable, and it will be here till it's adopted or till it gets rescued out. Is that a true statement?
That is a true statement.
The high killing rate that I think Mrs. Logan came up and said in August there were 776 animals killed. In September, 637. These are high numbers. Do you guys kill that many animals a month?
No, we'd be glad to provide to you, the data that we have, which, to my understanding, does not correspond with that.
Okay. Okay. We'll. Okay, can you look into that for us? Okay, because that's something that it comes up time and time again that you are a high kill. And if Dr. Hawkins, as we went through the tours, she says the only dogs that are actually put down are dogs that are vicious dogs or dogs that are sick or injured. That are is that a true statement? That dogs that are adoptable don't get put
Correct.
down?
That is correct.
So dogs that are considered vicious are unadoptable. Dogs that are
Terminally ill, injured, yes.
Okay. And in Lake Forest, we have, according to the statistics that we've seen, nearly over 95% of the dogs that are rescued or picked up in Lake Forest find homes. Is that correct?
That is correct.
And cats, obviously, cats are a bigger problem for you because there's so many cats out there.
Yes, and excuse me, and this is cat season, neonatal cats abandoned by the mother, very difficult. They have to be bottle fed, so it is also a resource challenge to keep those cats, those kittens, I should say, alive. One exciting initiative and something that's been successful, excuse me, and that we hope to expand upon is a partnership with Petco, where they have a cat play area. We've been successful in adopting out cats from that play area, gets them out of the shelter there where they can have an open space to play, be viewed by folks who would like them, and so we're looking to expand on that initiative as well.
Well, something else that's come up is when you have these when you're got high occupancy rate at the kennel, you guys have these free giveaway days. Are rescue groups allowed to get animals free? Because if they get them at lower cost or free, they can actually get an adoption fee themselves, which actually would help their revenue source too. So if we're giving away animals, I think that the rescues should have first bids at those.
It's my understanding there is a project ongoing right now with, and I will have to clarify again, sorry, I'm on day 24, so I'm coming up to speed, but I can absolutely provide a written response, and whether it's reduced cost or no cost, I will have to clarify.
Because obviously the goal for all of us that love animals is to find a forever home for each and every one of those animals. Should be all of our goals, and I hope it's yours, and I presume it will be.
It is indeed. As a matter of fact, maybe or if I may take this moment to recognize the leadership of this council for approval of the adoption center here in Lake Forest. I was very excited to learn about that upon starting. I think that is a fantastic model. Looking very much forward to it getting off the ground and working, and then looking to see how that may be duplicated countywide.
Yeah, if you get a few more out in different areas of the county, you're going to be finding homes for animals in other areas besides having to come to the kennel for it. Well, I want to say congratulations on your job, and my family's prayers will be that God will give you wisdom on how to best run that, and I wish you Godspeed, and I'm going to open it up for the rest of the council because I know there's some people up here that are biting at the bit to talk with you, so thank you so much for coming to Lake Forest, and congratulations on your new position. Godspeed.
Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And we understand that you've been appointed captain of the Titanic just after it hit the iceberg. So you're coming into a situation and none of your cause, and you're not familiar with things. I'm sure all of us appreciate your willingness to be here tonight too. So thank you very much, and we all wish you good luck. Let me comment on some of the things that came up on the data. You may not be aware of it, but about 2 years ago, your agency was putting out incorrect data, and when I challenged them on it, they of course said I was lying, and ultimately it was proven that I was correct, and subsequently they changed their data, although they said they weren't intentionally doing it. And in addition to that, there was a resident here who's not here tonight, strangely enough. But he did some data on the licensing and found out that the licensing data was incorrectly done. And we ultimately presented that to them, and ultimately they said they were going to change it. I'm not sure if they ever did change it. In any event, I guess the point I'm trying to tell you is that you're up there representing an agency and people are going to hand you data, and I don't want you to assume that necessarily the data you're getting is completely correct given our history of how valid their data is. So that's just a tip to you going forward. Don't wed yourself to the information you're being given. It may not actually turn out to be correct. Question I had for you, as the mayor noted and several of our speakers noted, the shelter's notorious not for simply being old, although people seem to focus on that, but for bad care and bad service. And the grand jury reports, most of what they criticize are management, leadership, training, a whole host of things, none of which have to do with the new shelter. So everybody's happy it's a new shelter. That's great. And I think somebody mentioned this exactly, but if it's a new shelter with the same old policies, with the vacancies, with the lack of training, with the violating the euthanasia practices, etc. But to do that, and I read it was either the last or next to the last grand jury report, they had all these, well, we're going to put in a behaviorist, and we're going to get fill the vacancies. There were 12 vacancies then, et cetera, et cetera. Now, someone pointed out, we paid $600,000 last year for bad service and bad care. And now we're hoping in the new shelter we're going to get good service and good care. Has anybody done any projections what that's going to cost us now when you have the behaviorists, you fill the vacancies, you're doing all this extra stuff? Is there any idea, not just us, but the other cities, what that's going to do to our costs?
Budget development is in process and will be discussed at the next meeting with the City Managers Committee. I think one thing important to note is that we are also in the process of preparing a strategic plan, working with the consultant, with an expert consultant, and I'm very excited about that because it's important that there be a roadmap forward, a vision for the future. And I was able to attend the kickoff to that, and with all staff present, including the director, and lend my support, encouragement, and set expectations that this is a real opportunity because in addition to transitioning to a new shelter, we're going to be bringing a new culture into that shelter, and this is a wonderful opportunity. So I believe anticipated by June we will have a draft plan which, working with the city manager and staff, we will arrange to come and present and take feedback from this council as you see fit, because that is the goal, is to make sure that we are implementing best practices, that leadership is trained to lead, that management is trained to manage. And I'm not saying that they're not. I'm saying this is an opportunity to further develop staff.
That sounds great. Almost everybody who's ever studied the issue of shelters, and I've studied it quite a lot, will tell you that as the number of pets going through the shelters go up, the admission rates go up, curiously enough, and the death rates go up. And under 1,000 pets a year, you almost have excellent care. Over 30,000, it's the devil to pay. Over 20,000, it's pretty grim. But as you go up, literally, the kill rates go up. So regardless of your intentions and your plan, there's something about processing that many animals that leads to high killing. And almost nobody who processes 20,000 pets in a year has a very low kill rate or a very low admission rate. So since we here have our own rescue adoption group now, what are the chances that we could help you out and circumvent the admission, so that, in other words, Lake Forest animals who are picked up here in Lake Forest, is it possible, instead of putting them in the shelter, I mean, for us it's not a lot, we're 400 animals a year, so we're not an overwhelming number for you guys, but if we could do it here and other cities could see that it worked here and adopt the same model, then it might, thousands and thousands of animals might be diverted from going to the shelter, making your job easier and giving us a little more local control, which, as you heard, we're always interested in. So is there any possibility of that kind of an arrangement?
Just one point of clarification. Would that be for strays or would that be for surrenders?
For strays or for owner-requested euthanasias, what I'd like to see happen is for those owners to be referred here and for us to do the counseling. And if we're able to, by us, I'm talking about April and her group, although probably my wife will be there helping as well. She'll be my proxy there helping as well. In any event, so I'd like to see counseling done there, and if they were able to, even some adoptions done at that point, so they never even come to you. But separately, the strays, if they're simply strays and they're not, they haven't bitten somebody, they're not believed to be, a problem, I'd like to see that done with the strays. But so I'm talking about either of those groups.
I think that absolutely open to further discussion with staff with respect to owner surrenders, owner requested euthanasia. I don't believe there's any contract. Again, this is me speaking, not too long in, but my understanding is there would be no contractual issue, no issue with that. We would like to talk about how, from a process standpoint, that might work based on the size and scale of the facility that's being stood up here. With respect to strays, as I understand it from staff, there are some legal constraints, but we'd be glad to work with the city manager and her staff to look at that.
Yeah, that would be great. When your animal goes to the shelter in Orange or even in Tustin, and people want to go check, it would be easier if they checked here instead of going there. So it would help everybody if we could do that. Well, thank you very much, and we're really looking forward to what you're telling us is going to happen, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Council? Robinson? Yeah.
So the definition I saw of a no-kill shelter was a shelter that does not kill healthy or treatable animals, even when the shelter is full, reserving euthanasia for terminally ill animals or those considered dangerous to public safety. Is that like a definition that you would kind of agree to? I know there's probably little nuances here and there, but is that generally?
My understanding generally, yes, that's the case. There are many definitions, though, as I am coming to understand, many different perspectives and views. But yes, generally that.
Would you say that's a good definition yourself?
Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Pretty close? Okay.
Yeah, there is no, I think what you're getting at, there is no no-kill. Even the best shelters ultimately are killing animals. Just
Right. So I was just looking at the attachments, attachment, I believe it's 2 and 3. It's the monthly report for January. There were 4 euthanasia. One was an owner requested, and that was, aggressive to people, which I think would qualify as that dangerous to public safety. There were 3 that were shelter euthanasia. 2 dogs. One was that behavior, aggressive, and then 2 other animals were
Irremediably?
Yeah, my eyes are getting bad. That's the word. Thank you. I can see the suffering, but it looked like immediate. The 2 R's ran together. All right. So, not trying to necessarily say that we're a no-kill shelter for January for Lake Forest, but I'm trying to find am I missing something here? If you look at the October, December, it's very similar. And actually, as a note, the intake was 71. The outcomes were 75. So I think whatever was, if there were some animals in, before that time period, they were able to get out. So hopefully a good outcome. Same thing. I'm looking through the shelter euthanasia details. There's behavior, the suffering, unfriendly, not a good candidate. Suffering, rabies, suffering, behavior, suffering. I'm trying to find, for Lake Forest, am I missing anything? What am I missing?
No, as the generally accepted definition you provided, or based on that, the Orange County or OC Animal Care Shelter would qualify as a no-kill shelter overall for 2016. And also, and Lake Forest actually had better numbers at almost 98% live release rate for dogs and about 72% live release rate for cats. So very high live release rates. There was one point made earlier too about the data collection or recordation and reporting methodology, and in May 2016 there was a change, and I remember the acronym. It's SAC, but I do have a note. A Shelter Animals Count. It's a national database project that OC Animal Care adopted and has been participating in, and that way we have a single clear methodology as to how we record, present data. It's endorsed by the ASPCA, the Humane Society of the United States, Maddie's Fund, and a number of other very prominent shelter groups. So that is the practice. There was a recognition that the change was needed, and the change was made, and that's what we're using at this time.
Okay. Thank you for that. Just another aside, I saw rabbitat, so I don't know if that was a new definition too, similar in the same vein that you mentioned previously. Also, I noticed there were cat licenses, 9 for that 3-month period. I'd always been told, or I think we had always been told that we're not doing cat licenses, so voluntary, okay. I think my last comment would be, there's grand openings, there was a grand opening. Are we having a grand destruction? I would love to be the person with the, we all think the shelter is old and dilapidated. I think those are your terms. I would love to be the person to push down on the TNT and see the whole thing just explode. So, yeah.
Councilman Hamilton, I think there's some people in the audience who would like to have first dibs at blowing that place up.
So, I think we all think it's like you said, 1940s construction, and I'd just love to see that thing get blown up. So, in a safe, non-threatening manner.
Councilman Robinson.
Just to be really brief, it seems like from the reports both for January as well as late last year that you're doing an admirable job with respect to Lake Forest pets. I don't know how the total county numbers are, but it looks like you're doing a very good job there, and I appreciate that. I'm very excited to see the county's participation with the Orange County, with the Adoption Center of Lake Forest that we're having. I don't know if that's the exact name of it, but very excited to see that partnership. And I think that it's a great pilot program, which you've also mentioned as well, and would love to see that spread throughout the county. I know one of the comments that I think is very fair that we receive from residents from time to time is that the distance to travel, whether it's in Orange or whether it will be in Tustin, is fairly significant from South County. We have a lot of folks that are big pet lovers. I've got couple of rescue dogs myself. In my family, it's all rescue. Always has been with my in-laws and my parents and brother-in-laws and all those sorts of things. I mean, just everybody's is always working with rescue groups, and so I'm excited to see what's going on there. And just adopted one late last year through one of these groups that April's associated with. So I know that she's going to do a great job. Glad to see that the county is partnering both in its willingness to be involved in that, as well as financially partnering with the city to get that online. And am I correct in that adoption center is supposed to open up in April? I see a nod of a head from April, so that's very good to hear. So thank you very much.
Thank you. If I may make one comment briefly.
Yes, sir.
About that, and excuse me, I intended to mention it, that I will be carrying that item to the Board of Supervisors for their consideration and anticipated approval next Tuesday for that contract. And thanks to the city manager and Carlos for assistance with that.
Thank you.
I was just going to mention too that I have adopted a rescue dog from a rescue or a dog from a rescue organization too. So I think that's important. There was a commenter, I think it was Sherry Anderson, that said, "We don't care, the gang of three," and that's just patently false. I think Scott Voights, our mayor, has also adopted. So all three of us, all three of our families. So it might be funny to somebody in the audience now, but it's a serious thing. It's something that we take seriously. So thank you very much.
Mayor Pro Tem, thank you.
First of all, congratulations on your new appointment, and I have to say you're very brave to come here. Lots of residents are very interested in this discussion, so thanks for being open to answering our questions. I have quite a few. Hopefully they'll be brief. The first one, I'm looking at your update at the bottom right. In the orange, it says design elements that translate into less stress for homeless animals. Can you elaborate on that a little bit? What does that look like?
More light outdoor space. I don't have a good conceptual drawing or blocking plan that with me, but I'd be glad to share one so you can get a sense visually of exactly how that will work. But generally, that's what it is.
Yeah, because I spoke with Jennifer Hawkins on the tour, and she mentioned the stress can end up getting animals sick. And if you get a stressed cats especially are susceptible to getting, respiratory infections or whatever else whenever their stress levels are out of whack. So that's important that we are mitigating that, because they have the highest euthanasia rates, and I'd like to see that change. So I spoke with a resident about an issue. It's probably a little late in the process. I'm not sure how much you know about it, but I met with Shane Silsby, Director of Public Works, and we talked about the building of the shelter itself, and he mentioned that underneath the entire foundation, they've dug up 5 complete feet of soil, and they've laid new compact soil, and within that area, they have laid new utility lines, water lines, everything. So that's an important issue, because that location, the whole base, there's lots of areas of contamination, and that's a big concern. In fact, there's a class action lawsuit by some residents that live right on the border of that base because of toxicity. My question was, I don't know if anyone had considered what would happen in the event of an earthquake. So if you end up with some sort of fissure in the ground, and now you've got possibly toxic dirt underneath that 5 feet, it's going to start causing seepage. And has there been any thought to that? Is there any anything that's on the top layer that would help to prevent those possible toxic gases or whatever to come up and affect the employees of the shelter or the animals of the shelter?
Thank you for raising the question. I actually had a chance to speak with Mr. Silsby. I was able to bring and provide to city staff a copy of the environmental document that addresses the soil there, and it does have a clean, at least at that location, is a clean bill of health. There are no contaminated soils concerns at that site.
Okay, I'd love to have a copy of that. He had mentioned he was going to send that on, Shane, but I hadn't seen it yet.
And he tried, but the size of the attachment was so large it kept bouncing back. So I brought brought it on a flash drive. They provided it to staff.
Great. Okay. Also, I was looking at the report about animals that are euthanized because they are vicious, bite, or whatever. Of course, in the event of a bite, it's if it's a dog biting at its own owner, things like that, I can understand the need for euthanasia. But sometimes animals can get vicious or aggressive in a shelter because they're in an unfamiliar territory and they may not be as friendly or adoptable. And I've actually heard of situations where an animal appeared to be aggressive and a rescue organization was able to get a hold of that animal. Turns out that they're just little love balls. They were just terrified in the environment they were in. I was wondering, what is the protocol for the staff to handle those aggressive type of animals? Are they offered to rescue facilities first to see if there is an opportunity to rehabilitate them and see if they are adoptable?
Yes, as I understand it, all dogs that have been deemed aggressive, and depending, I'm sure, on circumstances, but in general, that those are on a list and rescue, and it's a list available to rescue, so they know that this animal has been identified as a potential to be euthanized, and then they have an opportunity to take the animal and try to rehabilitate it.
Okay. I was looking at some of the reports that were provided in our staff report, and there was a comment in here that kind of caught my attention, and it didn't sit well. The comment was made regarding the reporting, and it said let me just get to that page. I just lost my highlighted. Oh, there it is. Okay. It says, reflected in the sample reports, the number of animal intake records will not always match the number of animal outcome records. May occur due to several factors, including animals accounted for during monthly specific time frame, so they're carried over from day month to month. My concern with that is that I can understand there's going to be animals that are going to be there a longer period of time. But as you heard, kind of the main theme with what's going on with the residents and their feedback is they want transparency and accountability. And we know basic accounting practices. You want your columns to add up. If you got a 500 here and you got a 450 here, no accountant is going to say, okay, that's acceptable. They're going to want to know where the numbers are. So my question to you is, in the reports, if there is an anomaly or something that's not appears to be accountable, is there a way that we can say 600 animal intake, but the balance down here is 700, the remaining 50, the reason why there's these extra 50, whatever, are these reasons? So that way that when people are looking at these reports, they're not saying, oh, well, OCAC must be hiding something because these numbers don't match. That's a big concern I'm sure the residents would agree with. What's your take on that?
I agree. It's a point in time. It's 30 days, so there are total intake during the period and then outcomes, but there may still be some in care at the facility, so to provide perhaps a total count number before and after, something like that to reconcile makes sense to me.
Okay, great. Let's see if I had any other comments regarding that report as well. There was one, gave a sample of animal care activity detail summary, and it showed at the bottom of this document, you probably don't have access to it, but I'll try to explain it to my best ability. The bottom it says animal charge dates, and it gave July 1st through September 30th, October 1st through December 31st, and then the counts on the right with a grand total. But I'm looking at the numbers above that, and the numbers don't add up. And I think that's part of the same reason, is that must be income and outcomes. Pets are still kind of in and out of the system. I would like to see it where, okay, we've got 668 count for a 3-month period, but what does that mean? Is that 50 animals for, whatever? I think I divided it up and it came to like 7.4 per pet. Well, I've never seen a quarter of a pet. So I just want it to be more clear where that makes sense, because these numbers did not make sense to me. And any layperson looking at this would probably agree that, we don't want to have to discover a new algorithm to figure out what the meanings of these reports are. We want to look at them and know what they are. So.
Would be glad to work with city staff to.
Okay, great. And then I'm almost done. Sorry. Now, the position of Assistant Director to Jennifer Hawkins has been vacant for quite some time, and I know they just closed the application process, February 3rd, where they're looking for someone, and there's been an interim person covering in that time frame. I guess he's only got a 6-month period of time where he should be working until the replacement comes. My question to you is, when is the county going to be filling this position permanently? And how many applicants did the county receive?
In terms of that recruitment, the county is currently, and this is a separate issue, but we currently are under a hiring freeze. Now, we have submitted an unfreeze request, even though it was a process. We have submitted unfreeze requests for all critical positions, that being one, also a veterinarian position. As you know, or may know, the state, the governor has pushed in-home supportive services responsibilities back to the county, or is proposing to. That would be a $38 million hit to the county in year one, ballooning to a cumulative $500 million by the next 5 to 6 years. So it would be a significant burden to the county to carry that. So in anticipation of having to make some difficult decisions, the CEO did take action and put a hiring freeze in place. This, if it's not already unfrozen, and I do not know the status as of tonight, it will be, and we're absolutely pursuing that and other critical positions at Animal Care to have them filled. But it is one of those challenges we're facing due to actions by the state.
Okay, would you be willing to provide follow-up answers to the questions that were asked this evening? Maybe present it to the city manager, and she can provide it to us in the staff report.
Absolutely.
I'd be curious to see what the results were. One final question for you. You've been in the office for so many days now. I mean, when you took this job, what things did you see that you wanted to change?
I took the job not necessarily because I wanted to, well, I believe in a period of assessment, but because I thought that the mission was very important. Connecting people and resources, and the types of resources that OC Community Resources has to offer, I think, are amazing. I think our parks are amazing. I think the fact that the county, with its partner cities, is providing a high level of animal care and has a lot of opportunity continue to do and do additional great things. Public libraries. I've always loved libraries. I've always loved animals too. I grew up. 2 cats were my constant, and they were strays adopted by our family. Were my constant companions and consolation growing up. And also libraries. I love to read. I love being in libraries. So I guess what I'm also housing, community develop, homeless prevention, the chance to reach and touch people in a very real, meaningful, and tangible way. That's why I took the opportunity. I am a firm believer in, so my charge is taking the vision of the Board of Supervisors and the CEO and implementing and putting it into action. And I'm a firm believer in strategic planning and looking forward in collaboration, working with stakeholders, excuse me, in development of those plans so that there's buy-in, there's consensus, and that we can affect positive change. And I think I've born and raised in Orange County. I love living here. I'm raising my family here, and just anyway, I was very excited for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
And seeing nothing further, thank you so much. I think that the council is unanimous in wishing you Godspeed, much success. The lives of our lost and injured pets are in your hands, and so we're going to keep you in our prayers. Mr. City Attorney, there's something that is related to his past knowledge, and could I bring something up real quick and take mayor's privilege? It's on a different subject, but recently I went to a seminar about a beetle that's in Orange County. It's called the shot hole borer, and you being involved with parks in Orange County. Can I bring this up as a Mr. City Attorney?
Mr. Mayor, Council, this sounds like an item for council comment.
Yeah.
So it's possible to...
Well, then I'll just ask you, the shot hole borer, is that affecting our parks throughout the County of Orange? I can ask that question. It's
Yes.
not a vector control issue.
There are issues with the shot hole bore in certain parks. I can certainly provide, those areas. What I can tell you, staff has been working very closely, park staff has been working very closely with UC Riverside, with experts there, and it's, it is an issue. It's an issue that the whole county...
It's affecting the rest of the county. I mean, not only, okay. What was my question. Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you, sir. Thanks for being here tonight, and thanks for having the courage to represent OC Animal Care. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Godspeed. Very nice to meet you.
Agenda item 9A, animal control reports from Orange County Animal Care, submitted by City Manager.
Mayor and members of the council, we have a quick overview by the Assistant City Manager, or Assistant to the City Manager.
Thank you again. Good evening again, Mayor and members of the City Council. So as you recall, in January, the Council directed staff to re-agendize a discussion regarding animal control updates to the public, specifically to provide an overview of the data that could be provided by OCAC. The sample reports that we work with OCAC to prepare include shelter statistics, licensing statistics, and field action statistics. So we've talked a little bit about these already, so I won't go into too much detail, just provide an overview here. Obviously, summary shelter statistics include those intake methods and outcomes related to the animals housed at the shelter. So the intake category indicates the method by which an animal arrived at the shelter, such as a stray or animals relinquished to the shelter by their owners. Live outcomes refer to the number of instances under which live animals left the shelter, for example, adoption, pets returned to their owners, and animals transferred to another agency or shelter adoption partner. The report also provided the outcomes for animals that died in care, were lost in care, or were euthanized. The report also includes licensing statistics, which we covered a bit, and field action summaries, which include a variety of activities that OCAC performs in the field for us, including compliance checks, investigations, stray animal pickup, canvassing actions, and other types of field actions. To maybe provide some clarification on the point made by Mayor Pro Tem a little earlier, there is a chart in our report that talks about those field action counts, and the field action counts are, and I apologize if we did not explain this clearly in the report, but those are all of the field actions that were undertaken by OCAC during that period. The animal charge days are the number of days that the animals were housed at the shelter. So those are two different things, and may be confusing because they appeared on the same page. So I appreciate the opportunity to clarify that. We feel that OCAC has been quite responsive at this point to staff's request for information. Obviously, we've had some fluid, dynamic discussion on what these reports may look like in the future, and we're open to your suggestions and feedback. We would need to understand if these reports provide sufficient information for the council, or if you'd like to modify them further. Staff has been taking some diligent notes, so we're understanding of possible changes desired, but would obviously seek further direction from you. Thank you.
Is that something that we should be discussing with you now, or should we just take that offline?
Can we do it offline?
Mayor and members of the council, it would be helpful for us to get some general direction from you tonight. So one of the things we have posed to you in the report is whether you would like quarterly statistics or you'd like a monthly report. And so we've prepared both. It'd be helpful to get that direction from you tonight. We've also taken your comments that you provided to Dylan. We can make changes to the report based on those comments if all the council members agree. I believe the two comments were adding a carryover line so people can understand the intake and the outflow and have them tie together. And the second was to clarify the animal charge days, to clarify how many animals were at the shelter during that time period corresponding to this number of charge days. So if that's agreeable, we could take that as action and then provide a report to you offline.
Quarterly is all I would care about, so keep us posted. I mean, let's see this little bit of...
I'd rather get it monthly, and at least for the first couple of months, and then if everything looks fine, we can work it out. I'd have no problem going quarterly, but initially, so we can get it shaped up. I'd rather start monthly.
So I have no problem with that, monthly, if so Council Gardner would like that. I have no problem with that, but I don't think that we need to put it on the agenda item.
What we could do is provide this for you in your update once a month, and then during council comments, at some point, one of you could raise it and give us further direction.
Yeah, and I agree, doing it once a month for now, I think makes a lot of sense, because as we're getting the reports tweaked, we may decide we would want something else on there or take something off, and it would give us that chance to course correct without having to wait 3 months to discover we're not getting the data we want.
And at some point, once we've got it tweaked, right, I'd like to see it appear on the website just like the police stats do, but while we're busy tweaking it, I don't see, within around 6 months or something, we've got something we're happy with, and then I'd like to see that.
So
Not now.
we're going to take that. I'll make the motion that we receive it in our updates, in our weekly updates once a month, and at this time, and that will bring it up again. So make the motion
With clarifications as requested by Council,
Yes.
with Mayor Pro Tem Basil.
Okay. Do I get a second on that?
I'll
motion?
second that.
Okay. All in favor, please cast your votes.
That motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Mayor, could we request a 5-minute recess so we could change out our attorney for this next item?
Oh, yes, you may. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to reconvene this meeting, so thank you.
Agenda item 10, potential conflict of interest regarding Mayor Voigt's employment with the City of Irvine, submitted by City Manager.
Mayor and members of the City Council, in February, the Council provided majority consensus to direct the City Attorney to reflect, to review conflict of interest issues related to the Mayor's employment with the City of Irvine. Since that time, the Mayor of Irvine in his professional life is an attorney, and he has joined the law firm that also employs our City Attorney, Mel Richardson. Because they are professional colleagues, we decided to bring in special counsel to take a look at those conflict of interest issues. And so tonight we have with us Morgan Foley of McDougall, Love, Bomer, Foley, Lyon, and Candlelight. This is a San Diego area law firm. Here with us tonight, he and his colleague did the conflict of interest analysis, and he's here to discuss that analysis and answer any questions you may have.
Good evening, Mr. Foley, and thanks for coming from San Diego. My second favorite county. I got park membership at San Diego Zoo and San Diego SeaWorld, so we're down there quite often.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and members of the City Council. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. I don't want to keep us late here, so I'm going to kind of skip through. You've all seen the opinion that was prepared and distributed, I believe. But just as a thumbnail sketch of this analysis, we looked at a number of conflicts of interest laws. Chief among those was the incompatible offices doctrine. That is because if, in fact, it applied, it would result in the mayor losing his office here as mayor and being able to be removed from office as an incompatible office. The other conflict of interest laws were the financial conflict of interest under the Political Reform Act, the Government Code Section 1090 conflict of interest questions. And that's where a public official cannot be interested in a contract with its agency, his or her agency. The common law conflict of interest issues, and we also looked at the leadership principles of the City of Lake Forest. We had the opportunity to speak with Mayor Voigt. We had received copies of his job description from the City of Irvine. We've analyzed the law, and as you see by our conclusion, we conclude that there is not an incompatible office and or any other violation that we can find based on the information we were given. And we believe it was all complete and verifiable. And so that without any other conflict of interest, there are no other penalties involved. Removing a mayor or any council member from office can only happen a couple of ways. One is by a lawsuit called quo warranto, and that requires leave from the Attorney General's office before you can actually file that lawsuit. So much of the analysis of incompatible offices comes from those AG opinions that deal with the question of whether they will grant leave to sue to remove a public official from office. The other procedures to remove somebody from office obviously are commission of a crime or a violation of Government Code 1090, and the District Attorney's Office would be responsible for those types of things, not the Attorney General's Office or a quo warranto lawsuit. So in our analysis, as I said already, we came to the conclusion that Mayor Voigt is not considered a public official in both the City of Lake Forest and the City of Irvine. Obviously, as a mayor and elected council member, each of you are public officials, but to have an incompatible office, you must also have a public official at the other agency. And then you get into the analysis of whether it meets the requirements of, even if it's your public officials in both agencies, whether you meet the criteria to justify an incompatible office. And critical among those things are whether the position is, both positions are created by statute or a constitution, whether you that the official acts with sovereign authority in both positions, among other things. And we just found that the analysis is, in our opinion, is that the mayor does not act in sovereign authority for the City of Irvine, therefore you are not a public official, resulting in finding of incompatible office. The Political Reform Act does not create a situation where you may be removed from office. However, it could create a violation that is prosecuted by either the DA or the Fair Political Practices Commission. However, because your interest in the employment, your source of income is the city of Irvine, there's a specific code section that states that that's not considered income for purposes of conflicts of interest laws. So there is no violation of the Political Reform Act. The Government Code 1090 problem or issue that was raised was, again, a situation where a public official cannot be interested in a contract. Again, the salary of a public official is not going to be considered an interest in contract, and there's a specific exclusion for public employees and their contracts when making that analysis. Finally, in dealing with common law conflicts of interest, we've come to the conclusion that there's nothing that leads us to believe that there is a reason for the mayor to be disqualified and step down from his position as a mayor or a council member, including the analysis of the Lake Forest leadership principles that were also provided to us. So that is a thumbnail sketch of what I provided to you in written form. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Well, I guess we'll take it to public comments first, if there's anybody from the public.
Sherry Anderson, followed by Martin Henderson.
Good evening.
Hi. First off, I think we should just remove conflict of interest from our website. There's so much conflict of interest. You say you love dogs, and then you vote for a 10-year contract with a high-kill shelter, a place that, it's not even a shelter, a place that kills 700 to 900 animals every month is not no kill, no matter what kind of definition you want to come up with. That means there are 900 that are unadoptable. Sorry, 70 to 80% of the cats unadoptable. That's a lie, and that's what you voted for. Councilman Voights, I read the report. It's interesting. In my opinion, you are being paid by Wagner for your position on our city council. It all goes along with the corruption of our city and county. Everyone in Lake Forest and the county, I've told, you're working for Wagner, and Wagner works for a legal firm, says they're all corrupt, of course. I'm encouraged that even with the developers' money that you had, and that the last election, and the support of the GOP that Councilman Robinson had, he only beat Adam Nick by, 100 votes? Meanwhile, Councilman Bazell, who didn't have any developers' money or the support of the GOP, beat everyone by at least 5,000 votes. I'm encouraged that the voters are finding out about the corruption in our city. Your decision is making it easy to prove. My hope, your decision will cost you your position with our council. To me, it shows your lack of moral character, conflict of interest, and where your real loyalties lie. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's ethical. In my opinion, you are a puppet. What else? Why else would he hire you? I know at least one of our past councilmen that left because he got tired of the corruption and bribes that he was offered. As a resident, I am totally disgusted with what's going on with my city.
Thank you.
Martin Henderson, followed by Andrew O'Connor.
My name is Martin Henderson. I've been a resident of Lake Forest since 2000. Mr. Foley, it looks like your decision has given some wiggle room to Mr. Voights. I presume you talked to him once. I, on the other hand, have talked to him more than you have. I have heard him more than you have. Mr. Voights refused to answer a question a few weeks ago. He and Mr. Hamilton, about whether or not they condone lying or deceit. The other three council members all answered the question. There's no reason for any of them to not answer the question, provided they could answer honestly. And I think by his silence, Mr. Voights spoke volumes. You've lied. Mr. Voights has lied a number of times from the council dais. He said, I didn't wear a wire. He did. He said Adam Nick hijacked a meeting with the school that was having all the rashes. He didn't. he said that the Saddleback Valley Unified School District asked that council members not attend that meeting, and he was corrected by the city manager. Now, Mr. Voights is committed to represent me and the 84,000 people of this city who stand behind me in spirit. And yet you have lied over and over and over. How many reports have you given, formal reports have you given from the Vector Control Board? 1, 2, 3? No more than 3 in the last 16 months? But you made that commitment. You said, hey, I'm going to cover it. Didn't do it. Haven't done it. You've been derelict in your position. And now you've told this city and the 84,000 residents that you're not going to talk to Don Wagner. Quite frankly, you may be an asset to them. How do we know that you're not going to go down the hall and question him, say, hey, Don, let me pick your brain for a minute? We don't know that because we can't trust you. And so I'm going to ask that the three of you who voted, or who answered my question a few weeks ago, to pester this guy tonight to get an answer. Why have you lied to the city of Lake Forest over and over and over? And what have you done to prove that we can trust you, that you will have Lake Forest's interests at heart? And I don't want to hear that your family lives in Lake Forest. I want facts. I want to hear from you. And Mr. Robinson, you answered the question when I asked a few weeks ago. You said, no, you don't condone lying. No, you don't condone deception. So I hope that you, in particular, will be on his case tonight and get an answer from him. I see my time is up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Andrew O'Connor, followed by Larissa Fellett Clark.
I actually also answered your question, too.
No, you did not answer my question.
Good evening. My name is Andrew O'Connor from Foothill Ranch since 1990. I've made many presentation here to the dais and to one's councilman, and he can call himself mayor. I never voted for him. Mr. Foley, I'm the person who picked up the phone and just asked a few simple questions to the city of Irvine to provide me that document. And I feel like I'm a patriot to my community that I exposed him. He never told the interim city manager, the city clerk, or any of his councilmen that he was doing this. Okay? Never told he was getting $24.02 an hour. Never told he had how many hours a week. Never told anybody, Mr. Foley. And I'm glad you're writing these notes down. Because that's deception in the strongest words, my friend. Never told the interim city manager or city manager Donick that I'm doing this. He did something behind the back of this council and of this community. And trust him? I don't trust him. Oh, a few good were given right there. I'd like to ask him right here. Point blank, answer in front of us. He and his wife, Stephanie, both attended school in Saddleback Valley. Please identify the school and year. Now, go ahead, do it. He won't, because here's another lie right here. He'll say anything to get elected. If I'm wrong, counter me right now. Name the school, year of enrollment. Year of graduation would be even better. But you can't do it, can you? Because you lied here again. You'll do anything to get elected. Here's another thing. Why will he be in the city of Irvine promoting ABC Restaurant or ABC Company? Why didn't you get ABC Restaurant, ABC Company to locate in Lake Forest? Why are you saying, good job, we love you in Irvine? Why didn't you get them in Lake Forest first? Why? That's what I want to know. But you just sit there and look at me, because you know I'm right, and you can't answer back, and I caught you again, like I do every time I come up here to the dais. I catch you. The drain is swirling. He's in it. Hamilton's in it. He's swirling in it really bad. And Robinson and Voights, you're going down with him. Good night.
Larissa Fellett Clark.
Hello.
Good evening.
Good evening. May I ask the attorney a question? Okay. If he, I just am looking for an explanation. If he's accepting compensation for a job from both Lake Forest and Irvine, and obviously that's an unethical... Sorry. I don't know how you can tell two bosses to do work. Compensation is for something. So which city takes priority? My dad didn't have 2 roofing crews and then offer his roofing crew to go roof for someone else and still pay them while they collected that. It doesn't make sense. It stinks. Do the right thing. You know, you're very well financially compensated in other areas of your life. Do you really need this bone with Irvine or Lake Forest? Give us up. Go to Don Wagner. You campaign the most for him. I don't understand why this is not a clear conflict. He's accepting 2 paychecks. Can you please answer me? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. It is not uncommon, in fact, I would imagine that most city councils are compensated a nominal amount, obviously, especially in a city such as Lake Forest, a general law city, where the salaries are set by the government code, and at the same time work their own 9-to-5 job, or 8-to-5 or 8-to-6 job, or whatever it might be, as a full-time employee somewhere else. The law is very clear, though, that just by working for another public entity, you are not absolutely or without question in a situation where you have incompatible offices. You're serving 2 masters, so to speak. The law makes it clear what you have to look at, what elements have to be met in order to result in the California law requiring the abandonment of the first office.
Can I ask you, does it even have the appearance that it doesn't look right? Ethically, did you read our ethics code?
Yeah, Mayor and members of the City Council, we reviewed your ethics codes. I reviewed your ethics codes. There are questions that may arise in any political situation, and it is a situation where the voters will make that decision at the time of elections. You look at the candidates and you decide whether you're going to vote for or against that candidate, but it's not a situation where that candidate or that incumbent is required to leave one office or the other.
Okay, I appreciate your answers. So do you lie to Irvine like you lie to us too? Because are they believing they're getting what they're paid for?
Thank you for your comments.
There have been no further requests.
So, basically, with the law stating that if I'm not voting on policy in Irvine, I'm not in conflict of interest because I'm not voting on any policies in Irvine.
Well, that's part of it. It's whether you're allowed any sovereign authority. In other words, whether you have the ability to make decisions. Incompatible offices would be a situation where, for example, a good example is a city manager in one city who runs for political office in a second city and is elected, and that creates the problem where the offices both exercise sovereign authority. City managers are created by statute. The law creates them under a council manager form of government. City council members are created by statute or the Constitution. So both of the elements there are met in both offices. And then a city manager is charged with making decisions on the expenditure of the budgeted funds, the execution of all the contracts and all the workings of the city, and stands in the shoes of the city council, so exercises that sovereign authority, just as that person as an elected official exercises that sovereign authority as well.
Thank you.
Understand the frustration of the speakers. If it looks like and it smells like what you're telling us, but it isn't legally. And I understand that, and because the people who wrote the laws put that thing in to exempt them from just exactly this problem, but it is a law. Okay. And in there you talked about the there are ethical questions that arise. For example, because it's a neighboring city, not just a city somewhere. So the other night, Mr. Robinson wanted to talk about forbidding trucks or something, like a citywide ordinance forbidding a certain kind of truck in this city to park overnight. And, if they're forbidden here, therefore they're going to push over into Irvine. Or we have a sports park in Irvine, and particularly Mr. Wagner in Irvine. They want to build a place and attract tournaments. So we're trying to attract tournaments, in Irvine and Wagner trying to attract. So there are these areas in which there's obviously, I would say, conflict of influence, but there are competing influences. If we get that tournament, or there's only one tournament, we're going to get them, or we're going to get them. Somebody talk about a business. If Amazon wants to build a warehouse, we're competing with Amazon, and Irvine's competing with it. So there are all these competing influences. And in none of those are they breaching ethical, well, I guess, yeah, in some senses you're a lawyer, so you're really, and ethics is not law, so we probably should be talking to an ethics professor or, someone ethics. Yeah, so I answered my own question. You're not qualified to answer on ethics. Let me ask you this instead. If we just change this, and I'm sure we could get the vote here, to the Kingdom of Wagner, then would there be any conflicts at all for any of us? That's a joke.
Just listening to the residents, I definitely hear the concern. It's a matter of trust. Trusting for the residents that our council is going to do the right thing. That our first and best interest is our own city. Based upon the law is the lowest denominator for accountability, in my opinion, and everything above that is would be considered ethics and morals. The law isn't designed to give us a moral compass. It's just to tell us what we can't do wrong. And we did ethics training earlier in this year, and it talked about this very thing, that there are limitations to the law, and that we should hold ourselves, above the law, and that's where ethics comes into play. The concern I have is, first of all, that Don Wagner is now working for BB&K. That definitely does concern me. I think that it's something that we need to talk about as a city council. Obviously, this isn't the moment to talk about it, but it needs to come up in conversation because, when you get somebody's fingers in everything, that you start to muddy the pool. And anyway, I'll talk about that later. But based upon what the residents are saying about how they're feeling about it, Mayor Boyce, I was wondering what your commitment will be to the residents. From here forward, what are you going to do to help garner their trust that Lake Forest is your #1 priority?
That's a simple question because there's those in the audience that wouldn't trust me no matter what I say. So the fact that they're not people that have a inclination to be on our side, because the fact is that they don't want to see the truth when it's before them. So it's just a sad state that that I can go out and get a job and work and make a living, and my loyalties aren't to only the residents of Lake Forest, because most of my family lives in Lake Forest. And so, as I said to many of you before, that my family lives here. So it's you guys. I'm held to a higher standard than you guys would hold any of the other ones up to, because the fact is, my family's here. So it's something that I take pride in our city, and we're extremely blessed. And I have a good job with the city of Irvine. The city of Irvine is a great community, and I think that if you took us in a region, and I think a regional control of an area, when you take Mission Viejo, Laguna Hills, Lake Forest, and Irvine, we're the largest, safest big city in America. So there's a lot to be said about the success we have in Orange County as a powerhouse in the state of California, and something that I considered as once the Golden State. But we have more jobs, unemployment's here, crime in Lake Forest is lowering below all our surrounding cities. And I think that it's just a testimony of what we've done here in the city of Lake Forest to make Lake Forest the gateway to South Orange County, because we're extremely blessed not only with the kind of businesses that we have there, but most of the people that we have here and the residents and those that actually work in Lake Forest, they love Lake Forest. And so I got to say that my loyalty is and always will be with Lake Forest. I'm an elected official for the city of Lake Forest, and I take my role as an elected official and as the mayor very seriously. And so I want to thank you, Mr. Foley, for being here and clarifying this legality question that they had. And I don't even think it's an ethical challenge, because the fact is that if I was voting on projects there or actually had any say of what businesses come into Irvine or what businesses come in, we have an economic development team that's second to none, that we actually have garnered Kawasaki from Irvine in the last few months. Toshiba's moving from Irvine to Lake Forest. And so the fact that our bedroom community is attracting major corporations that are choosing Lake Forest. And so I got to say that Lake Forest, as a bedroom community, Irvine doesn't hold a candle to Lake Forest. I think that they're a great place for jobs, great place for college education. They've got a lot of institution of higher education, and we're blessed to be neighbors with them. But I think that they have a good city council. I think we have a great city council. So I think that there's a lot of things that we have compatible with them. But I think it's important that we not look at that because I got a job and I go to Irvine for my job, that all of a sudden I'm betraying my elected role as an elected official here in Lake Forest.
I have one last question. Now, I believe, as far as my position goes, I believe that being on city council, unfortunately, we are held to a higher standard because we're visible. You know, everyone sees everything we do and everything we say, and it's forever recorded in some record somewhere, and 10 years later, someone finds it and holds you accountable. So I heard a couple of residents mentioning, Mayor Voights, that you had lied. First of all, I'd like you to answer that on behalf of the residents.
I'm not answering nothing from the residents right now. The way, the attitude they come to me with like that. So thank you for your question.
What if I were to ask? I'm not angry. I would just like to know.
Thank you for asking.
Okay. That's all I have. Thank you.
So without nothing further, Councilman Robinson.
So I feel like this is more of a political issue than it is a real conflict issue, and that's where I have some real frustration with all of this. If there was a real issue here, then I think that we'd find some legal problems with it. I don't recall complaints in the past with respect to former councilwoman who held a very high-level position in a neighboring city, former councilwoman from Lake Forest, a former councilman from Lake Forest who worked for a government agency that actually did work in this city, and a former commissioner who we all hold in high regard, who was in this room earlier, who worked for a city in central Orange County. So there's a precedent here, and I've never seen anyone really come and complain about that. And so that's what makes me feel like this is political and not really a significant issue. Now, are there going to be times when, Mayor Voights, you're going to need to recuse yourself? I don't know. And I think that we need to rely heavily on our city attorney's office to make sure that we're all held accountable for every single conflict we might have. We all have conflicts in some way. We just had to fill out 700 forms just in the last few days. And those forms don't just focus on our own selves, but they also focus on our spouses. There are many different ways that we can have conflicts of interest. Councilmember Gardner, you've mentioned on a number of occasions the $5 issue. I've had to recuse myself over things where I actually pay more than I should because the agency that I am on doesn't know whether or not I'm getting a good deal. So if I'm doing business with a company that is asking for a contract, like for instance a Southern California Edison, right? They don't know whether I'm getting a really good deal on my electricity bill. So I would be asked to recuse myself from that particular vote. Very strange. That's just a hypothetical, not a specific, but just very strange. But I have no benefit, not even $5. In fact, in some ways, like I said, I actually pay more than other people would to try to avoid that conflict. And yet still I have to recuse myself from that vote. And I have absolutely no problem doing that. But yes, we're held to a very high standard. We absolutely should be. But it shouldn't preclude any of us from looking for employment because this is a part-time position. And, some of us in the past have chosen not to take pay. Others choose to donate it away. For others, it helps, pay for a lot of the things that we do. We all would agree that if you busted out the hours that we spend in the course of a month, right, that there's probably a 14-year-old in this town. You know what? There might be a 7-year-old running a lemonade stand that's making more per hour than we are, right? Okay? And so, it's not that we're doing this, we're sitting up here for financial gain. I mean, we have to take a lot of criticism. Almost all of us have taken it in some form tonight, one way or another. And we're not doing it for financial gain in any way. We're not talking about, large sums of money or anything like that. I mean, we're talking about employment for a council member and in a neighboring city, and it's legal. And, I challenge you, Mayor Voights, I challenge the city attorney's office to make sure that where there may be a conflict, that you recuse yourself from that and just make sure that there's good communication going there. But, just over the last few months, I've been talking with the city attorney, not Mr. Morgan, but our city attorney, Mr. Richardson, about, and you may have noticed it recently, but we're starting to get some emails. Hey, pay attention to these things that are on the agenda, right? Because it's something that I've seen in other agencies, and I asked him if he would do that, and he's started to. We really need to be paying attention to all of those potential conflicts out there, because we're all going to have them from time to time. So, that's my charge to each one of us. With respect to public comment that was directed at me, with respect to Mayor Voights and comments that he's made in the past, I'm going to say, and I hope that any of you don't take this the wrong way, because I would include myself in this, but when we're up here, we're having to think on our feet sometimes with issues. We're responding to things, and at times I've found factual misstatements coming from all of us. I don't know whether they're lies, because in my mind that would be someone who consciously chose to give a fact that they knew was absolutely incorrect. Sometimes we misspeak. Sometimes we might not remember something. I hope that none of us are consciously saying things that we know to be false and doing it to try to pull the wool over the eyes of residents. And I have to say, I want to trust each one of us. I hope that we can do that. And other than that, it's the residents that are going to determine whether we should be sitting here or not. And Mayor Voight's been through 2 election cycles where I believe he's been the top vote getter each time. Doesn't mean that he gets every vote from every resident. Clearly not. None of us have. In fact, if you really look at the votes, none of us have got 50% of the vote from those that have casted votes. because of how how the voting actually occurs. It's not a two-person vote where it's 51-49. It just doesn't happen. So, but each one of us have been elected by the people, and again, recognizing there are people who have chosen to vote for someone else, but each one of us have been elected by the people, and I think that we need to respect one another and respect the legal opinion that we get when we do call things into question, and then move forward. I don't find it my place to tell Mayor Voights what he needs to do or doesn't do, other than the fact that I'm one of the residents of Lake Forest, just like all of you. When I step off this dais, I am a constituent of each one of the four of you. And so that's where my responsibility lies. But when I'm up here, we're peers. We're colleagues. And I might not agree with everything that comes out of your mouth, and I'm sure that you don't out of mine, but we need to have that level of respect and civility for one another. And I think that we've been doing a better job this year, but there's always room for improvement. We can continue to do that. And that's what I think the residents expect from us. And I'm really glad that we've done a better job this year, because when I looked at the results from November, the election results, what they told me was that, first of all, I combined that with satisfaction surveys, with talking to residents, how things are going, and it seems like they feel like the city's running very well, and they felt like the council was very dysfunctional. And I haven't been hearing that as much this year as I did last year, which means I feel like we're taking a step forward. And I want us to continue to take those steps. I understand that some people want to ask this question tonight, so that's fair. We have this discussion, and we answer this question, and then we move on. I hope that we can do that. I hope that we can move on, and whatever we do tonight, that this is the end of it. If there's another issue in the future, that's fine, but I hope that we're done with this issue, because we need to find a way to work together. That's what the residents expect from us. If all they see is the five of us sniping at one another, going back and forth, eventually they're going to get rid of all of us, right? Because they want to see a functional city council. They're happy with how the city's going. Not perfectly happy. I mean, clearly, people come up to that mic, they've got problems that they want us to address. But on the whole, I think they feel like the city's running very well. We are the ones that need to continue to find ways to work together. And this might not be the right venue, so you can stop me if it's not. I'm not asking for consensus or anything like that. But I understand with the Brown Act, things get a little weird sometimes. But I would really like us to consider, even in the face of a pending recall and all those sorts of things, I would like us to consider bringing in a facilitator to help us continue to try to work together better. So, again, I don't know whether it's the right agenda item for that, but I think that would be very beneficial, because that, in my mind, is what the community is asking us to do. They want us to work together. They don't expect us to agree all the time, but they definitely want us to work together and be respectful of one another. So I may not have answered all the questions that everybody wanted me to ask, or everybody asked, or asked all the questions that people wanted me to ask, but that's my statement at this point, and I hope we can move on. Thanks.
Seeing nothing else, so just to state that, thank you, we appreciate it. I think it clarified the question that two of the council had, if it was just. I appreciate it. I do earn a living. I enjoy serving the city of Lake Forest by making a living in Irvine. So, but I live in Lake Forest, and so my loyalties will always be Lake Forest, because that's where I live, work, and play. So, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll make the motion that we receive and file.
Second. You want to vote on that?
No, for receive and file. Mr. Mayor, it is now 10:20. Normally, you have your council curfew at 10:30 where you'd vote to continue.
Are we starting it early now?
Well, no, I'm just suggesting that consider that your council comments generally take a minimum of 25 minutes. So if you want to be fresh for council comments, I would suggest that we table 11 and 12 for another evening and just go to council comments. If you want to keep going, then you would anticipate that, generally this meeting would probably go past 11 o'clock. So I just wanted to point that out now.
I think it's a great idea.
I agree. Council?
Okay with me.
Okay. Yeah, I just think it should be a unanimous decision. If even one person wanted to move forward, I think we should. So as long as it's unanimous, I'm supportive of it.
Mayor and Council, we do have one request to speak on the next agenda item, Agenda 11. So if you wanted to hear that public comment at this point.
Yeah.
Vincent Burke.
You can come back to us, Vincent. We're always happy to see you. So,
Okay, thank you very much. Vincent Burke, Lake Forest.
Good evening, Vincent.
Good evening. I guess I need to start off with a question in regards to this district elections, and that is, has council or staff been approached by anyone threatening a lawsuit against the city if we did not adopt a district election that format?
City Attorney?
There's been no threat of litigation to this point.
This is happening down in San Diego County, North San Diego, where an organization down there, basically a race-based group, is demanding that the cities adopt this type of district election so that essentially Latino majority, Latino-only voting districts can be set up. I'm sure you're aware of this. A number of cities down there, Escondido, Vista, San Marcos, have been assaulted by this. And this is something that we don't need. I'm on a homeowners board. I don't represent the 4-unit building that I live in. I don't represent 1/5 of the Viejo West condominiums. I'm a representative of the entire association, just as you folks are. You represent the entire city of Lake Forest and look toward our best interests. We don't need to divide this up, our city, into all these little enclaves and balkanize the city into small factions that could start being at war with each other. But if we had to go to a district-type setup, fine. Give me a map, give me a ruler, and give me a marker, and I'll set up 5 equal square mileage districts. Nothing's carving out, well, let's have the Bennett Ranch in one area. Let's have, the Foothill Ranch, another district. Let's have, Baker, another. And then let's have everything else be, become that 5th district, We don't need that. So I am opposed to any sort of district-type setup for the city of Lake Forest. We don't need it here, and that should be fought against. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for your comments.
We've had no further requests.
Okay, then that will bring us to city manager's report.
I have nothing further this evening.
Brings me to Councilman Gardner.
I brought this up the last time, and I think I was given the bum's rush. So I want us to talk about taking the parcel on El Toro. There's a name for it. I don't know what it's called. I can't remember. As a homeless transitional housing for veterans. So I want us to bring that up in closed session, but apparently I have to bring it up here in open session in order to get it in closed session. But
it's the Mamie Thomas parcel.
The Mamie Thomas parcel.
On El Toro near Geronimo.
Next to Forest Glen, right? Yeah, it's that little thing which I think is big enough to do a transitional housing for vet. Well, I could go into more details, but, I don't want to get the bum's rush again. That's the topic I'd like to bring up, and then we'd have to talk about the other stuff.
Mr. Mayor, Council, just to clarify, is the intent to discuss potential sale of that property to a third party for the construction of veterans housing?
Or, we have funds, we have affordable housing funds that we don't seem to be able to use. So it might, I'm open to have no axe to grind one way or the other, except as a possible use of it instead of it staying vacant.
If you want to have that discussion in closed session, I'd be happy to do that. My preference would be that we try to match it with something else so that we don't just have one closed session item that we...
Yeah, no, sure. And
yeah.
yes, I don't think we have to have a meeting just for that, and it's 15 minutes, but the next time you're doing, tag that on till... Okay, next thing is a comment from my wife talking about our granddaughter, that the classes are always filling up. And I've heard that actually from many residents. So, just a comment, we either need more classes or something, and that's great that we're doing that. But they seem to fill up really early. So, I'll pass that along. Council replacement. At some point, I had asked, and I believe the Mayor Pro Tem was seconded that we talk about the mechanism for what do we do when a council member dies or resigns or can't stand it anymore, in the case of Peter Herzog, and leaves us. And I asked for that to come up as an item, and then instead we got a letter from the attorney that I didn't feel was adequate to didn't answer the question, just said, well, this is this is that, this is that, but actually wanted to discuss the possible mechanisms. So I guess I'm bringing it up again, and this time we won't need the letter, because we have it already, to bring it up for us to discuss what should we do in case that happens. So I'm looking for support.
Yeah, I'll do.
Okay, great. Thank you. And then, I'm looking to change the system, as you saw tonight. Half the people are gone by the time we get around to responding to them, so I'd like us to put it on the agenda to change the way we go about that.
Yeah, I'm fine with that, too.
Oh, I'm on a roll, Jesus. Oh, boy, I'm going to take out my other page of contingent stuff and get some good things in here. The other thing I wanted to do is to talk about, maybe this is too early or maybe not, our concern so much that we have with the school district, and between the traffic guards, the crowding at the parks, at the schools, the use of the money that they get from developers, et cetera, et cetera. There's just like a whole bunch of things, and we have a new superintendent coming in. So I'd like to, maybe if we set up an ad hoc committee to just work together with the staff and come back to us with some ideas that we could pitch as a group when the new superintendent gets in. So an ad hoc committee to talk about the schools, our relationship with the Saddleback Valley Unified School District.
I think that, that dialogue should be occurring all the time. So, I would hope that if the idea is an ad hoc committee, that it's not something that has lots and lots of meetings. I mean, I think that we probably have all been thinking about this for a while and could, knock things out in a meeting or two at the most. So, if that's your idea, then I'd be okay with that.
I'd be like to be included in that too. Saddleback Unified School District is an integral part of the education of our young people. So the fact that there's been agreements, gentlemen agreements made in lieu of the resources that have been coming to Saddleback Unified School District through the new housing. So I think it was something that was worthy of being discussed.
Yeah, I didn't want to take up the council time with the big discussion. I thought if a couple of people sit down and work on it and then bring that back to the council, it's more efficient.
Yeah, I don't think you need to really agendize it.
No.
Setting up the committee?
Because we're not going to come to the council and have it, have it as an agendized item.
I'll make maybe you, me, and the interim city manager get together and we'll meet up in her office and talk about it, and maybe then we'll make a meeting.
Oh, okay, do it that way. Yeah, I would do that. Yeah, unless, is there somebody else who wants to be on that? Two is okay. Okay. I was going to do the ad hoc and do, okay. All right, yeah, fine. Then I'll do that. Okay, thank you, and thank you.
Can I get some clarification? I'm sorry. So you're creating an ad hoc committee of...
We're going to come, and we're going to make an appointment. Just me and Jim will come and discuss it with you, and then we'll see where we're going to go with that.
Okay.
We're not doing anything besides that right now.
Right, we're not setting up, we're going to informally do that, and then, yeah, hopefully then bring that back.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, everyone, for staying so late.
Councilman Hamilton.
You know, I attended some water committees, lots of fun things going on. People telling us that global warming is going to cause all these things to happen to Orange County, so I guess we'll have to see if that occurs or not. I wanted to agendize. Similarly, I think what Councilman Gardner was talking about, we've got this $2 million-ish, plus or minus, pile of money in our housing fund, and I'd love to see if there's other developments that come, or if there's other opportunities to spend that money. You know, I think we can figure out a way to do that. So, not sure exactly how, but
Okay, we will be coming back to you with an item on a notice of funding opportunity, and perhaps at that time we can talk through this more.
okay, sounds good. And we had two speakers come tonight and talk about you know, potential conflict of interest for Councilman Gardner. I think you said you'd probably support, you know, some research on that. I think seems just, you know, we've had some residents speak about a potential conflict of interest for Mayor Voights, and it just seems fair that that would be something that, you know, we should look at. I totally appreciate your comments on, you know, and I trust that you're telling us the lowdown, if you will. But since, you know, we kind of have a precedent on what, you know, residents have expressed concern like that, and it just seems like to me that might be a prudent path to go. So I'd seek consensus on doing that.
Would that include, I'm currently still on my board of directors for my HOA in my community. Should I be included in that review as well, since I could possibly have a conflict of interest? I have no problem being a subject of you know, looking into it, because I want to make sure that whatever I do always stands above, you know, reproach. So I'm happy if you want to include me in that.
It's council's prerogative.
So it looks like we have three.
Just so I'm clear, so are we asking for a future agendized item, or are we just asking for staff to look into that and provide a report?
We can get the report. I don't think necessarily has to. I mean, I think those two residents are here. Yeah, on the other hand, it was consistent. We had it agendized too, so I don't know.
Okay, my preference is to not agendize it.
All right. Well, I can just take I think a report would be fine.
That it?
And that's all I had.
Councilman Robinson.
Okay, so I know that you've got already a fairly exhaustive list, and I've been holding these for a while. I know, I've been holding these for a while, so I don't want to put any timelines on them, you know, specifically when works for you. But number one, I would like us to look at a potential ordinance with respect to drones. and it was mentioned tonight,
Yes.
I think, by one of ACC.
I'll second that. I was at the sports park, and there was drones flying over the sport. I will second that.
Okay, well, so just like to take a look at that. I've spent a lot of time researching the issue. I know that BB&K has done so as well. I saw an email. I know BB&K has looked at it as well. So that's the first one. The second, and I believe I've talked to Carlo about this, and I believe, I've also spoken with former city manager Dunnick about this issue, but it's community choice aggregation, which basically is having businesses aggregate their electricity costs so they can reduce them. And it's something that needs to be approved at a municipal level. It's a very, very slow process. And I believe BB&K, we've also been involved in this, so their firm has already done a lot of research. A lot of the legal firms have, so I would like to look into that. But it's a very slow process. Basically, if you were to approve something like this, it would come to a city council multiple times. So I just want to kind of get the ball started rolling with respect to any of the process that needs to
I'll support that process.
I'll support
moving forward.
both of those.
All right. And that's all I have, and hope everyone has a good evening. Yep. Okay. Yeah.
Mayor Pro Tem Basil.
First of all, thank you guys for staying so late. It's not as late as it normally is, so that's a bonus. Good applause back there. What I'd like to talk about, and I'll mention to the chief later, I'd love to look at a drowning task force. Maybe we can incorporate that in some discussions. I don't know if that's something that the police services might be interested in looking into or not. Yeah, like a drowning task force, because a lot of children drown in the summertime, and it's a silent killer, and, you know, a lot of them can be avoided. Is this something I can be asking the chief?
You know, OCFA has a drowning awareness campaign they do
In the beginning of every
in
summer.
the beginning, of most summers. So we could start with providing that information to the council.
Okay.
You could take a look at that and see beyond that what else you're
Yeah, because
thinking
they did mention at OCFA. I attended the board meeting a couple weeks back, and it came up, and I thought that it would be neat if we could somehow partner and, get it tagged onto our website, see what else we can do that maybe they're not doing, and every life matters, and if we can save one, it's worth it.
Excuse me 1 second, if you wouldn't mind. That OCFA task force has done some events in different cities, but they've never done them in Lake Forest. And I talked to them about doing a safety awareness event at the El Toro pool. So that might be something to take a look at there.
Great idea.
I think,
You might have more sway than I did over my colleagues.
Well, and it's funny because it did come up in the meeting, and I'm supposed to be meeting with the chief, the fire chief, here this next week, so I'll be sure and bring that up with him as well. Okay. Also, the Medal of Valor luncheon was fantastic. I'm putting you on the spot today. Can you just mention in 30 seconds what each of our honorees, what they accomplished?
Sure. Investigator Adam Kalia, who is assigned to Lake Forest, was working patrol and responded to a residence of an elderly male not breathing and performed CPR, and at the same time gave directions to somebody else that was in the home. I believe it was the son. Can't remember off the top of my head. Gave him instructions on how to do two-person CPR, and they both did CPR until the fire authority got there, and he was recognized and given a Medal of Life Saving for that event. And then Deputy Chet Parker was not. He was. He will be receiving an award for the Sheriff's Department for Deputy of the Year. That ceremony has not taken place. That banquet has not taken place, but he was acknowledged at that banquet. And that's not just for Lake Forest, that's for the entire department, and that's for his work with the homeless community within our city.
Yeah, that's a great job. And I know we mentioned that we'd love to have them come in to honor them in the council meeting, so I'm looking forward to when that can get put on the agenda. Also, I would like to make a motion to add the 1976 agreement for the water treatment for Village Pond Park, I would like to... Does he have to leave for me to ask this question? Oh, sorry. Goodbye.
Or I could give you the $5.
I would like to make a motion to ask the council if they would consider putting the 1976 agreement in closed session so we can have a discussion about it. Is there anything else you need to say regarding that?
Mr. Mayor, Council, just to be clear, the closed session discussion would be in the context of the litigation between LFCA and the City of Lake Forest.
It's fine with me. Again, I don't know how long we need to talk about it, but the more we can combine, the better. It's nice to have 7 o'clock start time so that we can have dinner with our families. Not to say that the business isn't important, but it's sometimes we'll have a 6 o'clock get done at 6:30, and then we've kind of got this dead
I understand.
time. So yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
I agree
great.
with that, too.
So good. So we'll bring it. You agree? We'll bring it up in an upcoming. Okay, and then I really like what Amigos de la Colina was doing, and I'll make mention. I'll add it to my discussion for adding it to maybe the operating budget for the upcoming budget CIP meetings, and that's all I have. And thank you for coming, everyone.
So I attended last week the Medal of Valor where they honored our law enforcement officers for deeds beyond the duty. And it's just a marvelous luncheon where we have Orange County Sheriff deputies that are in different parts of the county come together and are honored for their heroic deeds in life-saving and heroic deeds in preventing and apprehending criminals. So it's a great event. It's always good to be around so many deputy sheriffs and law enforcement. You feel really safe there, and I feel safe because the Orange County Sheriff Department has actually done a marvelous job. And since the opening of Saddleback substation, do we have the numbers? Our crime rate is decreased.
Through 2016, we've had a 16% decrease in Part 1 crimes since 2015.
So I would say that our crime rate is one of the lowest crime rates in the region that I say is a great region for low crime rate in the first place. And so we're very blessed to have you guys, and thank you for the job you guys do. I attended the Rev and Tax meeting out in Ontario for California League of Cities, and they discussed a new tax that they want to bring to the city or the state of California, and it's just mind-boggling what they want to do. They want to do a $5.2 billion transportation funding deal that has been announced by Governor Jerry Brown, and they're trying to give a carrot to the cities because they're saying that among all the cities in California, they're going to split up $1.5 billion for local streets and roads. But what they're not saying is that this will be a statewide increase of a minimum of 18% per gallon on our gas tax, which is already one of the highest, is the highest in the nation, along with a vehicle traveled miles tax that they're working on. So I asked the assembly member that was there, how can you justify that when you got so many low-emission cars and hybrids that are on the street that aren't paying the exorbitant gas prices? And he says, well, they're working on another tax that will be a fee on hybrids and gas cars that will be either $100 or $200 per year for the hybrids. And so they're not paying the gas tax, so they're going to charge you an extra fee at registration. And they haven't come up with the price, but he said 100 but somewhere 100 or 200, he said. And they're still conniving ways where they get more money from us in the state of California. But on my way to the California League of Cities, I was driving down El Toro Road, and as you get on the freeway, El Toro Road, the far two right lanes are on-ramp lanes. And I'd like to make a motion that I don't know if we can bring it back for consensus, but the car that was in front of me realized he was going on the freeway and stopped right in front of me, and I almost rear-ended him. And this is not the first time I've ever seen that, but it's happened time and time again. But it just brought it to remember, because I meant to bring it up at a council meeting before, but it happened to me, and I said, "Are you kidding me?" But he realized he was going on the freeway, and he had to wait for the traffic to go by to get back into the main flow of traffic on El Toro Road. So I'd like to see a freeway line sign above above Rockfield, and maybe as far back as at Rockfield and at Bridger, to where we have maybe two of them. So it's setting up that these are lanes for the freeway, and maybe do the same thing at Lake Forest, because we have two lanes that go on the freeway at Lake Forest. But I think that for the flow of traffic, for whether they realize they have to get over or they get stuck in there going out, I think it would be a lot more plainer if they could see it farther back. And so I'm bringing that to your attention. I don't know if you want me to make a motion to put it on the agenda or something that we can put in.
Yes, we can talk about this during the CIP budget workshop, so we'll take that note and we'll...
All right. It's something that it's caused accidents there before, and it nearly cost me an accident, and it's something I meant to bring up 2 weeks ago, and I forgot. So
in the meanwhile, it could be painted.
Yeah, could we maybe do that?
Yeah, we can discuss all this.
We actually have some painting on Rockfield that needs to be done. Can, when the paint crews come out for that, they can maybe put freeway on those two lanes?
Mayor and members of the council, we can take care of that.
All right, thank you so much. Something else that has been brought to my attention, I, a few weeks ago, attended a beetle presentation in Mission Viejo, and this beetle's called a shot hole borer, and it's affecting our trees. There were some residents from Lake Forest. Bob Holst Club was there, along with me, and I think Tom Cagley, and it's wiping out our forest. And I raised my hand and said, you know, I'm glad that you brought this up, because, you know, part of our city is called Lake Forest, and they said they're already here. So what I propose is that if we could get with Public Works, Tom, if you could work with us, and we could set up with our arborists and maybe UCI and parks, Orange County Parks, and have a seminar at the sports park, and maybe an information thing for the homeowners association, because so many of our homeowners associations along El Toro Road have loads of sycamore trees, loads of sycamore trees, and sycamore trees are the #1 tree that they like, and they like our coastal oaks, and these are trees that are beautify Lake Forest. And so as a representative for the city, I think that our homeowners association should be included in this, and so I think that we should send out and set up an informational meeting with UCI, Orange County Parks, our arborists, and our Public Works at the sports park, and you guys set it up. And do I need consensus on that?
Yeah, it would be helpful if
Could I
you
get
have two other
consensus on that?
Yes.
Good idea.
Yeah. And so this is a beetle that they say in the next 5 years there will be no sycamore or oaks in the state of California. I mean, at the rate it's going. And Tom, I think we talked about in the hall the other day, how many trees have you estimate that's already taken out of Lake Forest?
Thank you. I'd have to go back and get those numbers. But it's a significant amount of trees. It really is a true issue in our city, in the realm of thousands.
Yeah, see, I mean, thousands already in our city, so it's something that we need to identify, and really the treatment options for it is so limited, and they're working on this, and so it's a lack of funding, and the state of California hasn't looked at it seriously, and what they're saying is that soon as it hits our agriculture, that the state will maybe look at it more seriously. But in the meantime, we as cities should be taking the lead and trying to educate our homeowners association to save some of our trees. On my way back from the California League of Cities, I raced back to Lake Forest in time to make it to Mountain Mike's Pizza, as Leah was just leaving the parking lot. And so I got there and said hi to everybody, got my picture taken with Mike, the friendly photo man, and had a slice of cold pizza. But it was a grand reopening of Mountain Mike's Pizza on Ridge Route and Muirlands. It's under new ownership. It's a franchisee now. It's actually, Mountain Mike's was a company-owned, family-owned, but they're franchising it out. So there's a new franchise owner there. So it was congratulations and welcome them to Lake Forest. But 3 of my council members were there, and I just stopped by to wish them congratulations and much prosperity in Lake Forest. And so, without anything further, I'd like to adjourn the meeting. Thank you guys all for being here.